7.5, The Fan.
WIBC HD2 W298BB, WIBC HD3 W228CX, Indianapolis.
Yesterday was really the first time he's had some contact, and I thought he looked pretty good, but I won't know the extent of it until I get down there in the training room today and just see how he feels physically. But, he's been doing some things on the floor, but not a lot of contact. And yesterday, we had a lot of contact yesterday, and today we'll have a lot of contact, real scrimmage today, and kind of see where he is. I'm sure X will be smart about his approach and coming back, but I wouldn't count him out, put it that way, because he's a tough competitor, and already he's doing some things probably maybe a little ahead of schedule, but I'm just hoping for the best to get him back and try to keep him mentally positive about his approach.
Damar, right now things are moving in a positive direction. The doctors, what they were looking to see, I think they saw that. I can't speak specifically on it, but things are moving in the right direction. Some reports last night that he was resuscitated twice. So wanted to clarify, there was misspoke. He was only resuscitated once. Outside of that, things have just been moving in the right direction, but there's not clarity at this point in terms of how long things are going to be, how long it's going to take, where things are going to go. So for the family, it's just a matter of seeing more positive signs and hopefully keep building on that. Damar's parents were a little bit frustrated that T was receiving any sort of negative backlash. This was a regular football play. T has reached out. He's been supportive of Damar and his family. So the family doesn't want any negative backlash towards T at all.
Happy Wednesday to you on the Fan Midday Show. You just heard there from Jordan Rooney, the rep of Damar Hamlin, talking with NFL Network, giving an update on Damar's status. The latest we have in that front right now, things are really in a positive direction per Jordan Rooney. He said, quote, "I can't speak specifically to it, but it's moving in a positive direction." And of course, we continue to send prayers and family. We continue to say prayers and wishes to the friends and family of Damar Hamlin and company as he continues to battle inside of the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. Jimmy Cook and Charlie Clifford coming to you on a Wednesday. Jim? Charlie, not much, man. Just getting ready for
It's good to hear that
game
update.
Day. It is
good to hear that update.
Yes, indeed.
It was a tough day yesterday, but also a rewarding day in a sense that, let's face it, before Monday night, you or I didn't know Damar Hamlin, and to try to do him justice as he continues this incredible fight. It's great to hear from the Bengals play-by-play voice, Dan Horde, who's seen it all in Cincinnati, and certainly he was the man to handle that situation live on air, and also Richard Skinner as well. Interested to hear from Olivia Ray this afternoon out in Cincinnati. WLWT. Zach Taylor talks for the first time, Bengals head coach, at 1 o'clock, and how he approaches this. Certainly anyone who is still very invested in this story, as I think all of us are, it's a tough day for everyone who had to show up to work today. The Colts also, Jeff Saturday talking here momentarily at the Colts complex. First time we've heard from them publicly since the night that seemingly just changed everything this season.
Yeah, it's a very tough dynamic to operate with as an NFL player, as an NFL coach, because this is not being insensitive towards the Hamlins. It's just these players and these coaches, they understand that unless the NFL steps in and does something, they still have a job that they're forced to do, they're getting paid to do, and they do have to go through these tough situations. But if you look at how some of them handled it already, obviously it was very emotional for Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin yesterday because he's known Hamlin for a very long time, Hamlin having grown up in the Pittsburgh area. But, that is the type of weight unfairly that coaches and players have to bear sometimes in these situations, and you commend them. Obviously, it's nothing compared to what Damar Hamlin's going through, but you commend them for going through it and for trying to navigate through the process of, at this point, again, it's not officially been announced by the NFL, but there's been no changes to Week 18, and other players around the league, including the Bills and the Bengals, somehow have to get themselves in a mental place to get out there and play. That's still not the primary concern, but it is going to start being. That's a question everybody's going to get today. How do you play? How do you play through
That's
that?
the first question.
Yeah,
that's the first question. After, what was your reaction? How is your team doing? Certain connections, as we mentioned yesterday. Rodney Thomas II, a high school teammate of Damar Hamlin. They won a state championship together, just 1 year apart. And I know some people were upset that I was saying, hey, make sure you think about Rodney Thomas too. This has to be brutal for him. I still don't understand that one, but
How dare you, by the way.
That's fine. Look,
people, man.
I go back to something Jim Irsay said in, his 5 decades in the game. It's always interesting to hear his perspective on. He talks about the tribal experience of Sunday afternoons or whenever you're kicking off NFL football. Ultimately, what will get the league through this week, Jimmy, is warm-ups, leading into a moment of silence, leading into a national anthem, and feeling the indescribable energy that will be in every NFL stadium this Sunday. That is a medicine that you can't replicate. It's just in the moment. And there's a sense of that every week, knowing what you're about to do and knowing that this is the biggest stage in sports. But to see those images, and I'm sure signs and the shots of people in the crowd who, just like you and I, didn't know Damar Hamlin before Monday night, it's going to be a very, very emotional, powerful Sunday, and ultimately that energy will be channeled into playing competitive football with 4 teams seating on the line for a pair of games, winning in situations. Right. It's going to be crazy how the dominoes can fall. We've felt so removed because the Colts have been out of this for a month. I go back to that Andrew Luck winning in game in Tennessee in 2018, Saturday night. The team that started 1-5. For me, that might be the most fun we've had during the Chris Ballard era, when Luck runs off in the rain in Nashville. This team that in the middle of the second half out in Oakland, when the Raiders were still out there, if it weren't for a Shaq Leonard punch out, I mean, that season legitimately turned on that play, and everything that you thought Frank Reich, first-year head coach at the time, and Andrew Luck could be, it came together with whatever it was, 9 wins in 10 weeks, a win in Houston. So, I mean, put yourself in, it would feel much, much differently around here. I think if you were Jacksonville, Tennessee, if you were Green Bay, Detroit, Seattle, I mean, you've waited all season for a week like this. These are the games you dream for as a fan.
There's 3 different mentalities depending on where you stand in the NFL playoff picture right now. There are your top seeds that are trying to, obviously you take the Bills situation into account, but in an ordinary year, there are top seeds that are, man, we still got 2 more weeks. We still got 1 more week now of the regular season to get through. Can't we just get to the playoffs already? And then there are teams like the Colts situation where, man, can't we get to the draft already? We're still going to go through another. This is just the fan base. I'm not talking about the players. Maybe the players feel that way too, but the fan base, the mentality, to your point, that's where they're at. And then you have the middle of the pack, which is Jaguars-Titans, which is 1 game to decide everything, who is going to the postseason, who is representing the South. And that's pretty much your tiers of the league in terms of as you prepare for what Week 18
if you win
is for you.
If you win the AFC South, do you even put up like a congratulatory tweet, or
do
you just kind of skirt by and say, I laughed last week when Brady posted, the Hardo meme of NFC South champs. Hang on a second. What's Tampa's record these days? No, I'm with you. It even if it's a train wreck, even if it's just whatever you want to call the AFC South or NFC South this year, you're right. Someone has to win. And ultimately a home playoff game. I don't know about you, but does this year move any momentum towards looking at if you win a division, should you absolutely be guaranteed a home playoff game? Should that negate itself? Can you put in a clause, if you're 500 or below, you've lost your ability to host the game? Jimmy, something has to be done.
Every
this
other
is trash.
Every other league, or at least the NBA, had this issue a decade or so ago. I could be wrong on the timeline, but they had the similar issue, right? Because it was
when the division
winners should really
Central
involve home
East.
field advantage,
Right?
And the division still exists, but now it's all about standing in the conference versus your division play. This is an argument that happens almost every year because we always have one division that's like this. But then you have an interview like...
Usually the one the Colts playing.
Right. But I don't know when he did this interview. It just popped up on my TikTok feed a couple weeks ago, because I'm an NFL junkie and it just pops up every now and again. Sean Payton did an interview with the Herd, and I don't know if he's weekly or not because I don't watch the Herd, so maybe he is.
They've been using Sean a lot.
Right.
Fox, I think any Fox entity has.
And he talked about the Skittles game. And how they were a Saints team that was like 11-5 that had to go play and they lost. So it's like my bold. It's not really that bold anymore. But a couple weeks ago, when the Buccaneers were flatlining, and then they had that comeback win, it was like, if they get a home game, Tom Brady could find a way to backdoor his way into another NFC Championship game. Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
No,
regardless of where you feel about the Eagles or about the Cowboys. So that's why...
We're not very intelligent, but we're intelligent enough to tell you that Tom Brady is capable of winning a playoff game.
And so for me, I go back and forth with it, Charlie, because on the one hand, like, should you really have it all come down to, even though they went 7-9 and you went 12-5, well, they were a division winner, so they get a home game? I don't know.
That's my point. I think who would be in disagreement with saying you can throw in a clause that the top wild card would flip with the lowest division winner if that lowest division winner is 500 or below?
I would assume the South would be. I would assume divisions that are bad would be, because you like that idea. It's a competitive edge. Just to be the other side of the coin there. That's who would be upset.
Inbound from Nashville, and we have one from Jacksonville on line 2. I think they wanted to discuss this proposed amendment, Mr. Irsay. It's fun to laugh about this.
It took them 3 years to change the overtime rules. Like the Chiefs got beat by the Patriots 4 years ago, and they didn't do anything. And then it happened again, and you realize, oh man, these are two top tier assets in Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Now we have to change it. It would take serious. You would have to have a number 1 seed, or not number 1 seed because they had to bye, a 2 seed lose. It wouldn't work that way because the 2 seed's going to be a division winner. Correct. I don't know what would have to happen, Charlie, but if it hasn't happened now, it would have to be a massive league push for me to get it to change.
To your point, what we've learned, it takes a lot to happen for the league to feel like the integrity of the game is being jeopardized. Let's face it, we've been doing this a while now. Snap decisions, outrage on social media because you can literally now hear from a fan base in 5 minutes about how they just were unfairly taken out of the postseason and a chance at ultimately what is a multi-million-dollar trip to the ultimate prize, which this year would be in Scottsdale. I'm with you. It needs to be looked at. Jimmy, people are going to be upset. It's going to be intriguing to learn how the league gets through the Bills-Bengals playoff seeding situation. As we've talked about, if you've been busy recently, I know it's been a crazy week to start the year. Still no decision as of this morning, as of now, past 12 o'clock here in Indy, about whether to resume the game, to completely restart it, to call it a no contest, to, I'm sure, potentially look at, would it be a situation where each team's given a tie and you would move on? Or are you now delaying the start of the postseason in order to play out that game, get the seeding right? It feels like a no-win situation. I am, unless things shake out in a certain way this week where mathematically that game becomes irrelevant. To me, that's the only winnable situation on paper for the league. And I want to be clear, I could care less.
Right.
If Damar Hamlin, if there's any positive update, I would, and you would too. Anyone is taking that. This is completely secondary, but it's a conversation piece, certainly, as the week continues here and we get closer to football on Saturday with the doubleheader, which will just be, again, a tough pregame for everyone who's wearing a uniform.
Speaking of which, we are going to dive into that matchup a little bit at 1 o'clock. Joe Reitz is going to join us of the Colts Radio Network, as Charlie already teased a little bit. Olivia Ray is going to stop by after the press conference
in Cincinnati.
And then Pat Boylan is going to join us at 2 o'clock to get you set.
Hoping to get Carson Steele, too.
Tonight for Pacers 76ers.
Little Ball State. Look, guys, Eddie, Jim, Ball State just had itself a heck of a night last night, beating Toledo. People are saying, IU's playing tomorrow. We got Butler tonight. DePaul's in town. Late tip-off at Hinkle. We're certainly going to talk about that. Purdue trying to regroup after loss to Rutgers. Mike Lewis, first-year head coach for the Cardinals. Former player under Bob Knight. Assistant under Mick Cronin at UCLA. Leaves what was a very nice assistant gig out in Los Angeles to come back to the basketball state, to pick up a Ball State program that's been dormant, to say the least, in men's hoops. 6 straight wins, 10-4. Toledo was picked, one of the 2 of the 3 teams picked above the Cardinals in the conference. Dropped 90 last night. Their guards go off. And then today, Carson Steele, Mr. Football Indiana, who announced this past month he's looking for a new opportunity after 2 highlight reels. How would you describe what Carson Steele did on Maction, fellas? He was the Maction golden child. Ended up on Scott Van Pelt's show.
Yep.
Little bad beats segment because of his pet alligator, in part because he's like the most interesting man in the MAC. Now he's going to be one of the most interesting mans at UCLA. It feels like a Ball State trade. Hey, give us Michael Lewis. We'll send you Carson Steele. Let's get this in writing. Good luck to Carson Steele, Center Grove, Mr. Football, first ever in program history to do it. Hopefully we can catch him before the end of the day, too. Huge day for everybody down in Center Grove.
Were you at all surprised by the transfer?
No.
Or where he ended up, I guess, rather?
I did see a note here that was passed along. He had some options, gentlemen. And please, I don't want to delay us from Pacer conversation here because we just got an update about Joel Embiid, so I'll do this very quickly. Carson Steele chose UCLA over Kansas, Baylor, IU, Purdue, Kentucky. That was kind of the top 6, I'm told. So certainly...
Give me that list one more time.
Baylor, Kansas, Kentucky, IU, and Purdue.
Good choice.
Yeah. I wonder had Jeff Brom stayed at Purdue... I don't know. You're right. Maybe Purdue isn't a great place to be a running back, although Devin Mockabee would say, I think it worked out pretty well for me, the walk-on out of Boonville, Indiana.
For sure.
So...
Well, happy for him. That's very exciting.
Yes. And I'll keep us updated about that. Pacers, Sixers tonight, fellas. Are we thinking this goes to 5 in a row? Where's this win streak go?
I don't see why it can't. I mean, to this point, every test that I've put mentally in front of the Pacers over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and like you have as well, they've passed it with flying colors, particularly over this stretch. And even if you date back to the loss that I keep bringing up just because it was a focal point response when they beat the Cavaliers at Gamebridge just last week or so, but when they lost early in December up at Cleveland, it was still a narrative around this team that they can't close games. They're not near the top of the conference. They're not able to hang around with the likes of Milwaukee, of Cleveland, of Philadelphia. And now that whole just shift has kind of changed. And I know we joke about the Wally Zerbiak comment being like a turning point for Tyrese Halliburton.
We're not joking.
Maybe it was. But just in general, we had Tony East on and a couple other Pacers people that aren't with the team, but that cover it, mentioned the same thing.
Tony does a great job.
And Tony does a phenomenal job. It felt like maybe around the time that they were back at 500, that they were going to slump back before this 4-game winning streak started, that maybe they might get there one more time this year, but this is where you're going to see the growing pains.
I agree.
And that was a fair assessment in my mind. Like, from where they were, that's a reasonable take and understanding of where this team is. They might kind of sniff it every now and again, but they're not going to be... This is where they fade back to the pack. And they haven't done that. So going into tonight, and obviously Joel Embiid's status is something to monitor. Questionable right now?
And Eddie has a theory here.
Eddie?
So I don't know if this. I have to look up the research on this, but I feel like there's always been cat and mouse between these two teams. Like if Joel plays, Miles will sit out. If Miles plays, that means Joel is out. I think there's only been a handful of times in the last couple seasons where they've been able to, go at it against each other.
It's an Eddie Garrison conspiracy. C.
I'm all for it.
You're right. October 24th, fourth game of the season. Philly wins 120-106. Okay, James Harden 29, Embiid 26, no Miles Turner. Really, they handled Embiid about as well as you could have, thinking about that was Jalen Smith, Isaiah Jackson, Goga played a ton of minutes.
Did Terry Taylor play in that game also?
Yes. Philly just hit more threes. It was 19-12 on the threes. October 24th feels like 5 years ago already with this team. So with Joel being questionable, that's one thing to take into account. Philly's 15-5 at home. Okay, they are where's this recent run? 10-2 over their past 12. So not a great time to be going out there, but I'm with you for as we've talked about this week. There is no better team to watch in the NBA because you can't get hurt. You can't get hurt watching this team. They're so fun. They're playing the second most efficient and high-scoring brand of basketball on the offensive end of the floor in the Eastern Conference. They are out-hustling seemingly everyone. The size has not been an issue in terms of rebounding to the fact where it's just like, okay, this team's nice, but they have a flaw. They can't rebound. That's where this is going to go south. No, they've figured it out to the degree where they can hang. I feel like tonight, these other games were very fun, but to go toe-to-toe potentially with Embiid if he plays, to me, this would be the biggest statement of all the wins over the past 9 days now, because Joel's had his way with this team. I mean, and he's had his way with everybody. And 33 points a game, only behind Luka. Is it Jokic or Embiid right now? If you had to play one guy, winner take all, you have to go up against one of these two.
Who would I rather have or who I'd rather play
against? Who would you
against?
rather play against to give yourself a chance to win? Because he's been better than Jokic.
It's a great question.
For like an extended period of time now this season.
Obviously, from the Pacers' perspective, I know I know why we're asking this question, but I can't choose Jokic unless we're in the finals, right? You can't really, but on a nightly basis. But to your question, on a nightly basis, we're
throwing the ball up at the new outdoor court outside of Gamebridge, which looks great, by the way.
It does.
And that should be named Lance Stevenson Court, the ultimate pickup attitude.
I'm not against that at all. I love it.
I think we need to make that happen.
For me, with where the Pacers are at, and to your point with why this could be the biggest win of this stretch, is that you're continuing to face off against teams that are right there with you in the standings in terms of your jockeying for position. I mean, if we're really entertaining craziness, which I don't know if I'm there yet, even though they've beaten Boston, you're only 5 games out of first. The Eastern Conference is still, much like out west, relatively compact in terms of just a couple games separating the loss column. Get a win against Philadelphia, another team that was viewed high up in terms of championship odds throughout the year. Yeah.
Them in Boston, right?
Yeah.
Who in Milwaukee? That was the 3.
Yep. So, best of the bunch. If Embiid plays, yes. If he doesn't, it's still a win. You're still happy about it, but I don't know. I'd want the big fella out there before I declared it the best win that they've had.
I would put
this season.
I would put that Celtics win as their best win. Just the way they dominated them from the jump, and then they were able to close it out at the end. Like, that's the one big question about this Pacer team: is can you go on the road and defeat some high caliber teams? They've now done it in Boston. You go back to that Golden State game on the road that was without Tyrese. And they had Andrew Nembhard there running the show. And
at that point, closing games was still a question mark. To your point, they got the big lead. Can they hold it? And they got punched back, and they responded.
It's been interesting on the teeter-totter of this team, because at the start of the year, they could close games, but they couldn't start games.
Right.
Then it flipped about halfway through after the first quarter or so. They could start games, but they couldn't finish. But now they're kind of putting it all together, and it's a really fun product to go out there and watch.
It's the most unselfish team I've seen in recent memory. Certainly here in Indiana, even those Vic teams, they were not this deep. And Look, Tyrese Maxey's back for the Sixers as well. It'll be Harden, Maxey, and potentially Embiid. It's nice that you're running into these teams as well, as Rick Carlisle's commented, at full strength. You want these measuring stick playoff atmospheres. That crowd's going to be ruthless. I cannot wait for all the TJ McConnell cutaways tonight. He likes to troll every team in the NBA, but this is TJ McConnell's NBA Finals tonight, going back. He was beloved in Philadelphia. He's clearly still great friends with Embiid and the Sixers that were out there when he was there. He is a weapon in games like this to go out, aggravate the crowd, aggravate James Harden potentially. Harden, who's been nice. He's only played in 21 games, but 22-11. He's been a little more efficient. Jimmy, it always feels like when we check in with James Harden 3 times a year, it's like, okay, is he still shooting 36 times a night, or is he passing now?
Yep.
James Harden, for everyone who's going to watch tonight, he's passing now.
Yep.
Okay, so although he had a big night early against the Pacers back in October, this is much more of a balanced attack with Tobias Harris. It's just fun to be previewing games like this, knowing they matter.
Yes.
Knowing that you've now invested a little bit. Tyrese Halliburton said after the win this weekend over Toronto, it was Monday night, he's like, we all kind of know, and we've talked about this internally, around Christmas time, NBA fan bases in each market collectively decide, all right, are we going to invest in this season?
Well,
or is this
that's the real start of that's the unofficial start of the season for casual NBA fans. Is once Christmas Day arrives, that's where all the hype and everything starts to really flow. So to his point, he's exactly right.
And they're peaking now. Right. Imagine if they were hot in October and now they've lost 7 of 8. Kind of be the opposite. All right, they are who we thought they were. Let's not get too excited here. Well, I think it's the opposite.
We had Aaron Neesmith on last week, and I asked him, just because perspective, when you're on a championship contending team like Boston, what was your biggest takeaway? And this is probably obvious to people that cover the league, and I'm sure it's obvious in NBA locker rooms too, no doubt it is, but it's incredibly hard to beat a team 4 times in a series. That's what it takes, and it's a hard thing to do. Contenders make it look really easy.
Yeah.
And there's no way to simulate that in the regular season outside of we beat a variety of different teams over a 5-6 game stretch. Are you capable of stringing wins together? And what they're doing right now, again, it's not the same team every time.
Yep.
It's not the same team every time, so you can't simulate the playoffs, but you're capable of stringing W's together. Right.
Yes.
Right.
I think the part I like about all of this, at least during the stretch of 4 games, it's been different variety of wins. It's been the defense can't get a stop. Okay, let's go out and we're going to score 135 and win a game. It's Tyrese Halliburton finishing out the game when you need him to finish the game out. It's Benedict Mathurin stepping up on the bench to give them the lead, or not the lead, but cut into that deficit the other night against Toronto when the offense was struggling, or the starters were struggling. He comes in, cuts the deficit down to 4. Next thing you know, the Pacers are out ahead. It's fun to see them win in a totally different variety of ways. The one thing they haven't done yet is won with their defense, and that's the last box that I think they need to check in terms of as you're going through the season, is how many of these games throughout the rest of the year can you win because your defense steps up and make plays late.
I felt like I was sitting looking at Rick Carlisle on the post-game podium there. You just paraphrased exactly what he said after the win over Toronto, saying, I thought this was a very unique point considering, look, Rick knows, and this is what he shared, if you have one way to win games in the NBA, they're going to figure you out. It's nice to win games here in Indiana when you don't have to make 17, 18 threes a night. You have to be able to be a chameleon of sorts, late in games, find ways to scrap. And Eddie, that was perfect. That's exactly what he said. Charlie Clifford of Wish TV, Jimmy Cook, Eddie Garrison. This is 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Jeff Saturday just spoke with reporters at the Colts complex. We have an update about the Texans game, and then also a Colt who is very close to Damar Hamlin. A new development in that story, that update on the other side of this break.
Hi guys, it's Mark. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction? Did you know that a major medical breakthrough is now available and it isn't a pill? Today, Wednesday, January 4th, we're running a one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Pine Grove Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow. It's backed by 60 clinical studies, including from Cambridge. If you're ready to regain the spark in your bedroom, today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. You'll also get a gift that can produce rapid and powerful results in the bedroom in minutes. You're going to love that one, guys. Trust me. And today only, we're offering 6 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is an unprecedented offer worth hundreds of dollars, but call today and qualify totally free. Call 317-552-1111. That's 317-552-1111. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your life back. Call Pine Grove Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today, Wednesday. 317-552-1111.
LD Smith Plumbing.
A dirty, stinking honest.
The crew at LD Smith Plumbing has deep roots in Indiana. Unfortunately, most of the trees around here have deep roots too. And if it isn't roots in your pipes, it's a water heater ruined by sediment. No matter the plumbing problem, we'll show water who's boss. So if you need a new water heater, call us today and save up to $300 on a tankless water heater or $150 on a storage water heater.
LD Smith Plumbing.
A dirty, stinking honest.
How about this for the perfect holiday gift? Get moving again, pain-free. You can do that via QC Kinetics. They are the nation's leader in advanced regenerative medicine, taking unique protocols that use healing agents from your own body to target aching joints, repairing and restoring damaged tissue, so you can move again with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. Got shoulder pain? Excruciating hip pain? You have any arthritis or lingering pain from an injury? Don't let them operate on you or give you more steroids. You call QC Kinetics with locations in Eagle Creek and Greenwood and get a free consultation today. This is the future of joint pain management, and appointments are available as soon as the next week. So make 2023 the year you say goodbye to joint pain. Call QC Kinetics. That's 317-559-PAIN in Eagle Creek and Greenwood. Give QC Kinetics a call today. 317-559-PAIN.
JMV here for Heaven Hill Distillery and our Larceny Bourbon Locks and Luna Azul Tequila Shots. Every Thursday, me and our betting analyst, Brent Halverson, take a deep dive into the weekend that is going to be the NFL. We'll give you our picks, and we call them the Larceny Bourbon Locks and the Luna Azul Tequila Shots. This Thursday, Coach's Tavern downtown. Join us for the free samples and all the fun that we have every single Thursday. Larceny Bourbon Locks and Luna Azul Tequila Shots on the Fan.
Staples stores are a new world of possible with innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
Now another Bills player is down. And they are intensely working on Damar Hamlin.
Nobody's concerned about football right now all the way around. America right now is concerned about one thing, the health and safety of this young man.
What happens next?
Tonight, Damar Hamlin's dream became a nightmare for not only himself, but his family and his entire team.
Happens here. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan. .93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
What an afternoon. Eddie Garrison just said it feels like summer. Charlie Clifford here, Wish TV, Jimmy Cook. We're rolling together with you this afternoon, noon to 3. It feels a bit ironic that we're starting to see some sunshine and we're starting to get more good updates about Damar Hamlin. One that has a Colts connection here to Indianapolis. We started to learn more about Damar Hamlin's story. Obviously, I was like many of you trying to read up who is this young man, how did he get to this point? And we just have been thinking about him for the past 2 days, and he is on the top of all of our minds. The update today is he remains in critical condition, but signs of positive things happening are coming out of Cincinnati. Jeff Saturday just met with the media. Certainly he led with He addressed the situation in front of the entire team today as they reconvene for the final game of the season. He also pointed out that yesterday, Rodney Thomas II, rookie safety from Yale, who was a high school teammate of Damar Hamlin's, just 1 year younger than Hamlin. They won a state championship together. They've remained close since. Rodney Thomas was given the green light by the team, and clearly that was a very easy decision to travel to Cincinnati yesterday to be by Hamlin's side at the UC Medical Center where he's being treated. And, you know, what a special decision, Jimmy. I think as impossible of a situation is this for you and I to put ourselves in the shoes. You know, we don't play in the National Football League. We don't know the risk and the stress on a person of knowing that anytime you take the field, a life-changing event like this could occur. And look, we're still going to learn more about what exactly happened to Damar Hamlin on the field Monday night. But we all have really good buddies in high school. And we all know, even if you haven't talked to each other in 6 months, even though life happens and you go your separate ways and, you know, you don't have that connection you once did, when something like this happens to that person or a family member, you know, there is not much thought that goes into what do I need to do to go help this person. It's clear Rodney Thomas made that decision, and it shows you a little bit about what he's made of as well. Again, we're all trying to learn something from this. In the addition to sending prayers and the positive energy that I think is real, I think that makes a difference personally. You know, we're all trying to apply this in our own lives and cut out the crap, cut out the wasted energy and time on things that mean nothing, and start to, again, prioritize things that actually mean something. Clearly, Rodney Thomas is an example of that.
Yeah, it changes a lot of the perspective on things when you get an account of somebody that is so close to Damar Hamlin. Charlie, you obviously highlighted this just on Monday night, that we were so impacted by it as just third or fourth parties to all this, as just viewers watching at home. How would someone that has a strong-rooted relationship with him be feeling through this, seeing his best friend having to be resuscitated on the field?
It's a helpless feeling. We've all been there. That's life. Whether it's under these sudden or tragic circumstances, I think once you're around here enough, you know, the probability hits your number, so to speak, of, wow, you know, there is, you feel, even if you are a superstar, you know, I've climbed the ladder, I've defied the odds to make it to the National Football League, and something like this happens, and you're looking for some help if you're that close to that story. And again, I got some heat on social media for mentioning the connection on Monday night. And look, I understand we all come from different viewpoints, and sometimes when you read things a certain way, you know, I get it, whatever. But when we say, hey, we're thinking of everyone's friends and family too, you know, that's part of walking this journey together. And, you know, everything, all the energy we're sending is to Damar Hamlin and his family first and foremost, but everybody else out there who something tragic has happened since we watched that together on national TV. I know some of you are driving around saying, man, I need some of that too. I'm hurting today. It happens every day to somebody. And I think if we all have our antennas up and are looking out, and again, it's never too late. As an example of, again, we're talking the Colts safety, Rodney Thomas. If you're just joining us, we just learned he traveled out to Cincinnati to be by Damar Hamlin's side, the critically injured Buffalo Bills safety who collapsed on the field Monday night, who remains in critical condition in Cincinnati. It is never too late to pick up the phone, whether there's a beef there, whether, you know, a disagreement that you thought, hey, this is good. I'm not going to blink first. Man, it's never too late to to call somebody up and the power that can give not only the person who decides to do that, but the person on the other end of that phone who hears it. When you hit click, that is a moving feeling. I've had it recently where it's a special gift in life when you are willing to forgive and forget, and just, again, stuff like this happens. Let's make sure we know what's important here. And that's the one silver lining of this situation is it's going to wake somebody out there, and they're going to make a positive change in their life, and they're going to make more of their time here than they would have had this not happened. And that's one way to look at something positive that will come out of this, along with a full recovery for Damar Hamlin.
Very well said, my friend. That's Charlie Clifford. I'm Jimmy Cook. Eddie Garrison is behind the ones and twos. Again, as Charlie mentioned, Colts having some media availability. Jeff Saturday has spoken. Ronnie Thomas II has spoken. The Fan Zone, Kevin Bowen out there amongst the media scrum at KBowen 1070, kind of reiterating that Ronnie Thomas able to share some of the stories from that immense friendship, as Kevin's tweet reads, from Damar Hamlin. Mentioned that he was able to see Hamlin in the hospital. And just, this is what we talked about to start the show, Charlie. It's especially hard, and people so often, not now, people aren't doing this now, but like whenever someone wants to say, it's tough having to be an athlete and deal with media scrums all the time. And it's a very first world problem, but it is still part of the job that gets overlooked sometimes. And then you throw in a tragedy like this, which again, we are trending hopefully towards a happy ending. It's tough to navigate it. And so you tip the cap in general, particularly when you have a very tight friendship with Damar Hamlin like Ronnie Thomas II does, for him to actually get in front of a microphone, speak through it, and share what he's going through is powerful. And to your overall point, which a lot of people were sharing that on Twitter on Monday night, call somebody you love him. Hold him tighter today. That speaks volumes to that of, hey, here's a guy, it speaks to the human emotion of it, of what he's going through. And like you mentioned, it's not just Damar Hamlin, it's people all over this country, over the world that have to deal with stuff each day. It's never too late to pick up a phone. That's just very well said.
You bring up a great point with not only Thomas speaking about this, but also Jeff Saturday. I've been very critical of Jeff and how things have played out on the field here. But the bottom line is, when you hire people, whether that be personnel, players, coaches, and this goes for whatever business you run, for us people who are not on that level, speaking to you this afternoon on The Fan. Again, Charlie Clifford of Wish TV alongside Jimmy King. You want to hire good people. And Jimmy Cook. Did I just call you Jimmy King?
You joined an exclusive group.
The Roncalli legend.
All right. And you Indy legend.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Fab Five member?
Exactly.
You want to hire good people.
Right.
And in the interim, Jim Irsay has done that with Jeff Saturday. You would never worry about, oh gosh, is he going to misstep here when handling this very delicate situation? That has been a priority of Chris Ballard, bringing in high quality people. It's become a bit of a punchline for some about, maybe in some instances, his character being outweighed here.
Well, you need a blend, and that's where we blur the lines between the winning and the human element of it. But you need a blend. You need a balance.
I'm saying from a human standpoint,
but just to clarify, in case
criticizing people for acquiring and seeking out good human beings.
Right.
I am sorry, I will have a problem arguing that that's a terrible thing at any point or at any turn, regardless of what stage you are in life, regardless of what team or workplace you're trying to put together. I think ultimately that is a very wise thing to do. And in unfortunate, tragic circumstances like this,
you want good leadership. Yeah.
You hear good things from good people. Again, we're talking about the cumulative effect of when that happens on listeners, on people who look up to these folks, on kids who are playing youth football. That's a nice thing to be able to share with your children. Hey, did you hear what this guy did on the Colts? Make sure you look out for your buddies. I think that would be a nice dinner conversation for anyone with young children this evening. A nice way to be able to move this story in a nice direction for if you're a 9-10-year-old kid who's playing football, who's watching that with their dad on Monday night. Dad, what's going on? Why, that that is a moment as a kid that you will not forget. Oh, I watched that game with my dad. And certainly that leaves a lot of unanswered questions in a young person's mind. This is a nice way to put a positive spin on that story. Hey, look out for your buddies. Stand up. Do the right thing when they need some help. And I know that was a very easy decision for Rodney Thomas. George Bremer said, look, it was a hospital visit. Again, if you're just joining us, Colts, we're learning a little bit more about how the Colts have handled the Damar Hamlin situation, the ongoing, very critical story that we're all following here as he remains hospitalized in critical condition in Cincinnati. Thomas physically was able to get into the hospital room, hold hands with his former high school teammate. I believe the quote he gave just moments ago, I know he heard me. He's a fighter. He's going to walk out of this. He's going to walk out of this 100%. I know that to be fact. Powerful stuff, and great to hear that optimism from someone who actually saw Damar Hamlin in person. Charlie Clifford of Wish TV, Jimmy Cook, Eddie Garrison, Pacers, Sixers tonight, Butler, DePaul. We're waiting for IU's opener at Iowa. I keep saying opener, not the first Big Ten game. Also coming back, what did we learn from Jeff Saturday in terms of what's ahead this Sunday? That story's next on The Fan.
The Low Post Podcast with Zach Lowe.
Tatum, I think at worst, he's third in MVP right now. He's playing defense at a borderline all-defense level. He's too young for these conversations to really start in earnest. If he's a Celtic for life for most of his career, he has a chance to be historically, for one of the two historic giants in the league, as great as any player who's ever worn that uniform, including Bird.
Check out the Low Post Podcast on the ESPN app or wherever you listen to podcasts.
If you're struggling with weight and frustrated with dieting each and every year, Mark Patrick Seminars can help.
After this hypnosis, I want to eat good food.
Since August, I can honestly say I have not had one potato chip.
It was life-changing for me.
And I don't think about desserts like I used to.
Bridget, how much have you lost now?
I've lost a total of 83 pounds.
Holy cow.
It's easy, it's fun, very relaxing, and very successful.
And I would just say go for it.
What are you waiting for? Join Mark Patrick Seminars and lose the weight or stop smoking guaranteed for only $49.99. Hypnosis designed to destroy unwanted cravings, late-night eating binges, boredom eating, stress eating. Seminars are Thursday, January 19th at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites, Noblesville. Weight loss seminar, 5:30 p.m. Stop smoking seminar, 8 p.m. Or Saturday, January 21st at the Holiday Inn, Indianapolis Airport. Weight loss seminar, 11 a.m. Stop smoking seminar, 2 p.m. Registration 30 minutes before the event. Sign up at markpatrickseminars.com.
You had a solid retirement dream. Sell your home in a few years, bank the equity, downsize, and travel. But inflation and recession has you wondering if all your hard-earned equity will still be there. What if you could recession-proof your equity right now? You can with TrueHold. TrueHold will buy your home for its best current value before a recession can erode it. You get to bank all the cash now and live in your home for as long as you want. And TrueHold covers all property taxes, insurance, repairs, and maintenance. And since TrueHold pays your home's current value in cash now, it's yours to do whatever you'd like. Don't wait for inflation, recession, and interest rates to erode your home's value. Visit TrueHold.com and discover how much TrueHold will buy your home for today. Based on its best current value, not what's coming. Call 1-855-300-9993 or visit TrueHold.com. The smarter, faster way to cash out on your home's value without having to move. That's TrueHold.com.
Basements get a bad rap. Probably because so many of them are wet, leaky, and musty. Thanks to screenwriters, crawl spaces aren't very popular either. Michaelis is putting an end to the horror show. Their time-tested waterproofing systems eliminate and prevent water issues. Damp and moldy becomes clean and healthy. And their French drains, vapor barriers, and encapsulation techniques turn crawl spaces into a Disney set. Yeah, okay, that probably went a bit far. But with over 35 years experience, they have a lot of homeowners enjoying their basements again. Think Michaelis. And think how nice it would be to get rid of foundation cracks, basement leaks, damp smells, and all the nightmares that come with them. Water, storms, fire, and foundations. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it. Call 844-FIX-INDY. Make it Michaelis.
Dan Dockage for Affinity Whole Health. Affinity is the leader in testosterone and hormone replacement therapy, and I got to tell you, I see why. Since I started a testosterone replacement program with Affinity, my energy, mental focus, drive, everything is up, and the physical benefits are amazing. Check them out at feelgreatindy.com. Guys, you can improve the way you look, the way you feel. You can build muscle and lose fat. Affinity will give you the roadmap. Go to feelgreatindy.com. That's feelgreatindy.com.
The Pacers head to Philadelphia to take on the 76ers this evening at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Wanted me, I wish I knew. I wish I knew you wanted me. I wish I knew. I wish I knew you wanted me.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Indy, what's going on? Charlie Clifford of Wish TV, Jimmy Cook, Eddie Garrison. Hope you're enjoying this glimpse of sunshine. It's felt fantastic. Last night, leaving Wish TV, it was like still 50 at 12:30. It's going to be an interesting close to the week. We've spoken about Damar Hamlin here, and our continued prayers go there. Pacers Sixers tonight in a game that we all can't wait for. As Jimmy mentioned, look, Christmas comes, Christmas goes, and if your NBA team's relevant, life is good. And I know seeing you down on Georgia Street, hopefully seeing you in the concourse at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, which if you haven't been over there since the pandemic, look, man, Jimmy, you can have a really good time at Gainbridge Fieldhouse just buying a cheap ticket, standing at the bar with a view of the game, both at the entry level and up top now, and kind of just letting it rip with your whoever you tag along with, knowing that this team is, again, pushing people around. When opposing teams come to Indiana, it is no longer a, hey, maybe we don't have to play all our guys. We can get the job done. They're going to fight. They're going to make it a game, but they're not going to have anyone really to close. That's not the case anymore. I want to break down the tournament, which is where you certainly sit now as a Colts fan. 1 week to go. There's 5 teams jockeying for the top 5 seeds. We have an update, gentlemen. This is just in to the 93.5, 107.5 The Fan studio. A key update with the 2 seed in the tournament, the Chicago Bears. Again, here are your seeds. Houston's 1, Indy's 5, the Bears are 2, Denver 3, Arizona 4. I want brackets on Twitter filled out.
I don't
We're
like
gonna
the
reward
Let's get Steve
winners.
Kornacki in
This is
here.
the tournament.
That's confusing me.
Let's get Steve Kornacki in here.
Bracketologists unite. We have an update out of Chicago. Nathan Peterman will start for the Bears as Matt Eberflus, former defensive coordinator, embarks on his tanking odyssey. The Bears have not won a game since I think like around Halloween. It's been very bad, but every week you see a Justin Fields like 60-yard highlight, and from my reaction from friends back in Chicago, that's all they needed, and maybe that's where the Colts are next year. But hey, you know what? CJ Stroud did something incredible. It's a glimpse of the future. Who cares? It's kind of depressing, but reality is reality. Nathan Peterman in for Justin Fields. Bears lose. Texans beat the Colts. Chicago gets the 1 seed. Gentlemen, break down everything else here in the tournament as Week 18 approaches.
Okay, just to clarify, in case you just turned on the dial and are very confused, think you hit your head and are
No.
You're
this is clarity.
This is the
You are awake to reality, Indianapolis. You've been sold visions of Lombardis, visions of aged quarterbacks stepping into the pocket and not being touched, a la Tom Brady.
And instead, you're headed to the front of the podium in Kansas City here, and
now you're in the tournament. And it's a damn good place to be. It's better than being 7-8-1 right now, everybody. Remember that. So
Houston is still with number 1 overall pick, or the 1 seed, as we're referring to.
First overall seed.
There you go.
They will play in the West. They will get the regional advantage of playing in the West as the number 1 overall seed.
Chicago has Minnesota. Is that right this week, Eddie? So you said,
come on, Brian Gumble. This is your moment. Brian Gumble doesn't guess. Hey, who's the
Steve Carnacki?
You got the bracket.
Let's freeze for a second. Take behind.
Where's
the scenes
Zerbiak
here,
in
folks.
studio with Clark Kellogg?
I thought we were including Eddie in this news.
We are.
I knew it was the Vikings. I just wanted to bring him in. Eddie is the Vikings.
Correct, sir.
All right. So if the Vikings win that game, and then Houston is successful in their matchup against the Colts, which in all likelihood, we haven't previewed that game, but these are two bad teams.
Is there something to preview?
Well, the Texans have shown competence offensively, and the Colts haven't. So if you look at it that way...
statistically, they both have
the same record, but
they both have averaged 16.1 points a game. So first 1 to 17 wins Sunday. That's your full game preview.
I was going to say
we'll write it on thefan.com. It'll be one sentence. First 1 to 17 or 10 wins. That's your game preview.
So if you're wanting the quarterback market to get shuffled up, you're hoping that the Vikings beat the Bears and that Houston beats Indianapolis. Then shift that and give the Bears the number 1 overall pick.
And give me the if-then statement then, because if Chicago's the number 1 overall seed with no need for a quarterback, what's the probability on draft night that they say yes to a phone call of a king's ransom to move up to the 1 slot to get whomever you want under center?
Can I hit the reset button here for a second? Because I've talked with a couple Colts fans about this very scenario.
Reset button engaged.
Do you want to give up a king's ransom for one of these quarterbacks? Because I don't feel that confidently about either one of them. Like, they both look fun, but like if one is there at 5, great. Or if you have to move up 2 spots for maybe like a future first, great. But if you give up a king's ransom to get, is that what you're saying? The Colts would go up to 1?
Who are you waiting for? Arch Manning? You have mobile quarterbacks who have won at the highest level at the biggest programs, who are great leaders, who have no off-the-field concerns, who have won.
I would be just as happy with Stroud at 5. I'm not in the I have to have Bryce Young camp.
If you're willing to risk sitting back and dealing with the blowback of a fan base that is ready to erupt, can you imagine somebody trades up, Seattle ends up taking a quarterback, and you are sitting there with Richardson as the best quarterback on the board? People would trade in their season tickets that night and say, what a debacle. This team couldn't get it right on the field. They couldn't get it right from a personnel standpoint, and now you waited and weren't aggressive enough to solve the one problem that you know you need to solve after 6 years. No.
This is a conversation
there is no path
at
forward.
2:30.
You can't risk it.
You can't burn everything. Like, there's a difference between what Kansas City did in
what's left
2018.
Here?
It depends how many first-round picks you're giving up, because you have to.
Yes.
This is not a next year championship
but you
team.
also have the advantage of having veteran Pro Bowl caliber players at your disposal that would help a team that's looking to rebuild. If you're the Houston Texans, they aren't going to move out. But if you're the Bears, you're Matt Eberflus, you know this roster very well. Hey, we can talk some names here along with your first at 5 and your first next year. I don't think that's out of the question.
When you said King's Ransom, that spooked me. That doesn't feel like King's Ransom to me.
It
that
wouldn't
feels
be
like
cheap.
a nice moving up. No, it won't be.
Yeah.
It'll hurt a little bit.
It will be more painful than what the Jets dealt with swapping Sam Darnold for Quentin Nelson. That's kind of the watermark. You know it's going to be worse than that.
Right.
But you do have vets under nice contracts who are movable
And
if needed.
Points, it's a good point as well in terms of having a trade partner that is familiar with the construction of your roster.
Mm-hmm.
We got to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll still focus more on Colts-Texans, but get a pulse from Joe Reitz in general around West 56. Also, of course, get his take in general about Damar Hamlin, the fraternity of NFL players, and just in general, the coming together movement that's happened across not only the country, but in the National Football League specifically. A little bit later, bottom of next hour, Olivia Ray joins with an update on the Cincinnati side of things. Pat Boylan, 2 o'clock, talking Pacers 76ers. But first, after this timeout, Joe Reitz, Colts Radio Network, joins next.
Guys, if you've noticed a lack of energy, motivation, and drive, it could be low testosterone. So schedule your complete health assessment at Low T Center today. They now offer the convenience of monitored self-inject at-home testosterone treatments. That's $155 a month cash pay or is covered by most health insurance. If you don't live near a Low T Center or you just need the convenience of the at-home treatment, Low T Center makes it easy. To get started on treatment, it's only the first 2 visits in person. That's lowtcenter.com to schedule your appointment today. lowtcenter.com. That's Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
People here are raving about QC Kinetics and how regenerative medicine has changed their life. People like Helen, an avid mountain climber who got sidelined when an accident left her knees in constant pain.
I was not able to train or do really anything on my knee.
Helen was told surgery would be her only option. But then she found QC Kinetics and was treated with natural biologics designed to repair and restore tissue in her knees. 3 months later, she was climbing the highest mountain in North America.
I got a very quick resolution to my pain. I began treatment in March, and I summited Denali June the 7th. It was super successful, and I recommend everyone seek out QC Kinetics as an alternative to surgery.
Get your life back with lasting results. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. Call QC Kinetics today.
Call QC Kinetics, 317-559-PAIN. That's 317-559-PAIN. 317-559-PAIN. That's 317-559-PAIN.
Pick up USA Fitness Noblesville for your New Year's resolutions in 23. Basketball and state-of-the-art workout equipment near 146 and 37. Find them on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
WIBC HD2, W298BB, WIBC HD3, W228CX, Indianapolis. The Colts wrap up the season as they host the Houston Texans. Coverage Sunday morning at 9 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
.93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
This is the soundtrack of the season in Indianapolis. 31 turnovers. Give it away, give it away, give it away now, Jimmy Cook. The year of the fumble, the year of the pick six, the year the statuesque quarterback in Indianapolis, after all the memories of the sheriff and the greatest time period in the history of this city from a sports perspective, this is the year it was put to bed. It's time to go get someone who can move out of the pocket. Joe Reitz, partner, I know you can still move. Joe Reitz of the Colts Radio Network, joining Charlie Clifford of Wish TV, Jimmy Cook, Eddie Garrison. Joe Reitz, when you think about stuff that matters Sunday against the Texans, what's on your short bullet list there? I assume that's not a very long list, but what are you intrigued about of what transpires Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, well, one, good to be on with you fellas. And I think, first and foremost, and look, I lived through one of these seasons in 2011, right? We were 2-14.
Yep.
I know the Colts have been in the 6-game losing streak, and it just stinks.
Yeah.
We lost 13 in a row to start that season, and, Jeff was playing right next to me at center, and so I know just how hard those seasons are and feel for those guys. But when you get to the last game of the season, one, I'm looking at Ellinger first and foremost, and I just think another chance to look at him, see what you think he brings you potentially for the future. But I do think it'll be a game, too. You'll get a chance to look at a lot of younger guys. And, a lot of guys that maybe haven't played a ton, but now, some different guys are going on IR. They're promoting different guys from the practice squad. And,
sure.
A chance to get some game action for some younger players on the roster that, they're fighting, scratching, clawing like heck to try to be on this team next year. And I think that's the reality. Obviously, whenever you have a disappointing season, there's always a lot of turnover in the NFL roster-wise, but there's even more so when you have a season like this. And, so some of those younger guys, Ellinger first and foremost, but still, there's a lot of guys that want to show this organization that they want to be a Colt for a long time moving forward. And I know I felt like I was a younger player when we were 2-14 that season. And that would, once you're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, I mean, you still are playing for your team, but it's different because you don't have that playoffs that you're really all pulling together for. But, I'd be lying if some of your thoughts aren't as a player. Well, I want to make sure that I play well, so I belong back here next year, and I'm showing 31 other teams that I'm an NFL player, and there is a lot of that personal accountability and pride that, guys hopefully will be playing for Sunday afternoon.
Joe, it's Jimmy. We stress this all the time that in the course of the NFL season, everything's on film. There's tape of everything. There's tape of every snap. So to your point about young players getting this opportunity and knowing that maybe this isn't an opportunity with the Colts next year, but it's showing you what you're capable of doing for one of the other 31 teams in the NFL. We've never been in that situation. What is that process like for young guys finally getting an opportunity or a bite at the apple, regardless of there not being stakes for the team, but there's stakes for them individually, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, your film is your resume, right? And, if you're in a normal job like I am now in the financial one, you have a resume and you build it out and you write down the things you're good at and your accomplishments, et cetera. In the NFL, it's your film, and that's all you got. And there's 60 minutes and there's 60 or 70 plays, and that's what you're putting out there for the Colts first and foremost, but 31 other teams. So, again, it's this clearly is a regular season game, but obviously there's no playoff implications, but it brings me back to preseason games and fans. And then I get it. They complain, why do we have the preseason and et cetera. But for me, that was always a chance to go out there and prove that I belonged in the NFL. So that's what I'll be watching first and foremost is Ehlinger. And then some of these guys that maybe a Colts fan isn't familiar with their name necessarily.
What does Mike Strawn have to do to get on the field, Joe? Is it time to see what we've seen glimpses of? He got a ball last week, and it's like, oh my gosh, call up the search party. Mike Strawn, there's a sighting.
Yeah, well, and one, I know he's battled some injuries too. When you're not a core special teams guy,
right,
it's hard to get on the field because when you can only dress 46 guys. But clearly, Strawn and Ehlinger had a good rapport in training camp.
Yes.
He threw him a bunch of balls and caught some big plays and touchdowns. And so maybe he's the guy you look for because, again, the Colts obviously are going to have a lot of needs moving into the offseason. And I know we're talking about quarterback, but just overall explosive playmakers. I said this on the radio show Monday night. When I think about the Colts, we need more explosive playmakers. Third down, red zone, two areas that the Colts have really struggled.
They've been terrible.
You could boil down every NFL game to turnover differential, third down, and red zone, right? And it's about making those plays on the money down, like they call it, when it matters.
Yep.
And so Strawn is certainly a guy that I think has some potential and would like to see him play and play well on Sunday.
The Colts in the bottom three teams in the NFL, both in third down and red zone offense. This is Joe Reitz, Colts Radio Network. In with us, Charlie Clifford, Jimmy Cook, Eddie Garrison. Joe, let's forecast the quarterback decision going forward. If you're Sam Ehlinger, best case scenario for next season, what is that for Sam Ehlinger? And also, there's a nice list now of potential quarterbacks out there. Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, Ryan Tannehill. Maybe that's the top end of that list. Lamar Jackson with the assumption he will be franchised by Baltimore. Jim Irsay last week called it, or I should say after the Monday night game in his interview with ESPN, he referred to it as the Odyssey with this quarterback trio of Rivers, Wentz, and now Matt Ryan. Do you expect next year, week one, if you had to put it on today, is it a rookie starting week one or out of necessity from what you've learned coming off bad seasons, would the best path forward be find potentially a different veteran to plug in with what we all expect will be a very high draft pick at the quarterback spot? And please, on the Ehlinger front as well, your thoughts on Sam.
Yeah, well, I think overall, when I watch the modern day NFL, I think what you see is, quarterbacks with some type of mobility, right? And there's Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields, right? Guys that might be more true runners and
game breakers.
Lamar Jackson in there. But is it necessarily healthy, in my opinion, for a quarterback to run for 100 yards every game? No, right?
Yeah.
Because again, it's a matter of fact. The longer you play and guys and how big and fast and strong they are, the injury perspective.
Sure.
But I think Colts fans that have watched these games the last few weeks have kind of seen, Kenny Pickett, Dak Prescott, when we watch the game, Justin Herbert, and when you go even Daniel Jones. I mean, people forget. It was funny to me. Everybody's talking about the Colts and they've had a rough year this year, and they can't be good next year. And I always say, we went from 2-14 to the playoffs in 11-5 and 2. Even Daniel Jones, fans had bags over their heads last year in the Giants season finale, right?
They wanted him out. It was like it was him and Carson Wentz, the two quarterbacks that were being legitimately moved out by the fan base.
Exactly. But you look at all four of those quarterbacks, they're not necessarily run-first guys. They're not necessarily, crazy explosive athletes, but the Herberts, the Daniel Jones, Pickett, that type of guy that can move in and out of the pocket and make plays just because the game has changed so much. You can go back to, the NFL doesn't change top down, it changed bottoms up is my belief.
Yeah.
When I was playing football in high school, it was I formation and you run the ball, and now you watch everything's 5 wide and spread, and kids are 5th grade and they're shotgun snap running zone read. And so guys are just used to that from 7th grade to high school to college. And now we've seen that, in my opinion, over the last really 3 to 5 years in the NFL, and just that ability to move out of the pocket. And then you contrast it. What are defenses? Defenses are faster, lighter, quicker than they've ever been to combat those quarterbacks. And I just think from the quarterback position, when I close my eyes, you just got to think about mobility. And when you talk about week 1, and who's going to play,
Joe, I'm glad you said
ways you can speculate, but I just think that's the modern day NFL quarterback, right? It's rare that the Tom Brady's and the Peyton Mannings and those guys. I just think that's really kind of a dying breed in terms of the NFL. Wouldn't you guys agree?
I'm glad you said Kenny Pickett, Joe. A realistic blueprint for next season in Indianapolis is to hope you are in the position the Pittsburgh Steelers are right now, with a young quarterback after a slow start to the year who has shown you signs of being the guy in winning time, paired with a great defense, enough playmakers to go out there and win on the downs that you mentioned are key. The difference is they have Mike Tomlin. And anyone who thinks, Mike Tomlin isn't the reason that team has not had a losing season in a decade and a half, I have nothing for you this afternoon. To me, Kenny Pickett, that blueprint, that is an optimistic, outcome for next year in Indianapolis. Jimmy, go ahead.
Joe, I was just going to switch gears for a second on that front and ask in regards to Houston, because they are in the mix once again near the top of the draft, holding the first pick right now. Bryce Young has been linked to them. But in terms of Sunday's matchup, Davis Mills was still speculated to start the year as an option somewhere in the NFL. Maybe not a starting quarterback option, but that's a hard job to be successful at, whether you're a first string or second string. There's the best in the world at that position. What have been your thoughts on Davis Mills and just the way the Texans have utilized both him and Jeff Driscoll at times this season?
Yeah, I think okay. I think, in my opinion, the Texans, if they got the number 1 pick, they're probably going to draft a quarterback. Right. But I think that's the other thing that's hard, too, with a young quarterback. People automatically just assume, guys can come in and play well year 1, year 2. It's a tough job. Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville very well may win the division. I think they're going to. There's a lot of people that were speculating on, him and is he the long-term future in Jacksonville? And that's because generally when you're picking in the top 5, your overall roster constructed isn't as great. And so just bringing in a quarterback, again, the NFL and college is a completely different animal. So I think that's also what you think about if you're the Colts and, obviously moving forward and the page is going to turn awful quick after Sunday afternoon to next year. But not just the quarterback, but the overall roster, right? And where are their holes? Where do we need to get better? Because just to think, bringing in a different type of quarterback and that's going to change everything, that's false hope too. And so it's a matter, in my opinion, of really taking, an honest look if you're Jim Irsay on where exactly is our team at, where exactly is our building at. And to me, probably most important, where is the culture at? Because I think
there you go.
The high water mark, Rick Venturi and I have talked about this, Christmas Day, you beat the Cardinals on the road, nobody thinks you were going to win. And since that game, it's just kind of been this continual downhill slide for the Colts. And to me, that's the locker room, and that's the things you got to dig in terms of, what is our culture when we walk in the building on a daily basis, and getting back to that winning culture. Because I always would joke with my friends, when I was playing, it's like, it's not easy to just show up and win 11 and 12 games every year. Colts fans, we've kind of been spoiled in a good way for the golden years in terms of, okay, are we going to win 11 this year or 13? Are we going to be the 1 seed or the 2 seed? That's really hard to do. And certainly the Colts, we've lived that now here over the last couple of years, but especially really the last 12 months since that win, against Cardinals on Christmas, and things have started going downhill.
Joe, we certainly want your thoughts on Damar Hamlin. We just learned within the last hour, Rodney Thomas, the second rookie safety, who's come out of nowhere, 7th-round pick from Yale, to really solidify himself as a starting safety in the National Football League this quickly. We've been impressed with what he's done on the field. We're learning just the impressive young man he is off the field as well, sharing that his high school teammate, Damar Hamlin, back in Pittsburgh, they were one grade apart. He made the decision yesterday with the approval of the Colts, that was a very easy decision for the great people, who make the calls there. He travels to Cincinnati, spends time in Damar Hamlin's hospital room, holding his hand, in prayer with his family. You watched Monday. I think back to your career, a teammate with Austin Collie briefly. You think back, I forget the year, that very frightening scene in Philadelphia with Austin. When you were watching Monday night, how did you process that, and how do you feel now that we know Damar Hamlin, positive signs out of Cincinnati, but still there's a very long way to go for this young man?
Yeah, well, I would say that's great news. I hadn't heard that there were some positive signs and reports, so that's awesome. And I think, probably like everybody in the NFL community and fraternity, you watch that, and it really just kind of just stops you in your tracks in terms of just how much you feel for that situation and the gravity of it, and just how scary it was to kind of watch it unfold real time. So, were you watching
that game live, Joe? Was that
I wasn't.
Yeah.
But then you turn on social media and everything there, and so saw different views and people talking about it, what had happened. But it's just really, really hard. And again, pray to the good Lord for his family and for their healing. And I think the showing the support from everybody from the NFL fraternity to people in Cincinnati to Bills fans everywhere. You just mentioned, Rodney Thomas, who, again, side note, is having a great season for the Colts. That's a heck of a draft pick to pick up in the 7th round for the season that he's done. But it just makes you put things into perspective. And I think we all get going quick in life, and the hamster wheel spins, and so just a really, really hard situation. And it's been nice to see, again, the outpouring of support from the NFL guys and fraternity. Because at the end of the day, that's what it really is, right? You want to go out and compete like heck and, beat the other guy. But, guys don't want to injure people and ruin other people's careers. And I think it's also just part of the brutal reality of the NFL is, we would joke about it sometimes, but, somebody gets hurt in practice and, their ankle's hurt or their knee. And what do? You move the drill, 20 yards and you keep going.
Yeah.
And I think that's the tough part about the NFL, but obviously that injury was just at a completely different level. And I think that's something the NFL hasn't seen in a really, really long time. And again, social media, right, makes things a lot more visible. I know there's been tragic situations over time, but I think the magnitude of that game, Monday Night Football, social media, the way that it happened has had a further reaching influence on the super severe injury for Damar, more so than probably at any other point in time throughout the NFL's history. And I think that's probably why it's, continued to be talked about day after day after day, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Joe Reitz, nice enough to take some time with us today via the Mower Shop in Fishers hotline. The Mower Shop in Fishers and themowershop.com for your residential and commercial mowers, as well as snow blowers, power tools, equipment services, and so much more. They have you covered at the Mower Shop in Fishers and themowershop.com. Joe, I did want to dabble in one more time in regards to the draft. I know that's going to be something that's on the minds of Colts fans and something you're going to be scouting and following along with as we get closer and closer to April's draft. We know there's still one game left to play, but having, I'm sure, at least consumed from afar some of the college football season this year, and maybe you got a chance to see the college football playoff games this weekend. Do you have any, in terms of fit, where a player would fit best for the Colts in terms of some of those top prospects like Bryce Young, like C.J.
Let's go, Joe. You're on the clock.
Yeah,
maybe not specifics.
I thought you were going to ask me if the Colts should lose, and I had my answer prepared. It was an old Nick Saban quote: "It's never okay to lose."
There you go.
That's it.
I know better than that, Joe.
We're running a program here.
The Colts are going to pick somewhere between 4 and 6, and in my opinion, does it really matter if you're 4 or 6? No, because in my opinion, if you see a guy that you like at that quarterback position, you do what it takes to move up there, and the Colts are close enough that it shouldn't be a too big of an issue. But I haven't watched a ton of college football, honestly. I just try to stay focused on the NFL and the Colts, and then third grade football with my son. So I love college football, but I would just be pure speculation in terms of who I've studied and watched, et cetera. I don't get into it that much. I will do some more draft as we lead up to the analysis, but it's it's an incomplete answer from me from that perspective.
Let me rephrase it then. What stylistically would you like to see in the next quarterback in the Indianapolis Colts in terms of play style overall at the position?
Pocket passer, can't leave.
I think the mobility, you want that athleticism, but I'm still a pass first guy. Again, I would say Justin Fields is a run first quarterback at this point. He can evolve into that. I just think being able to do that year over year, time after time with your body and the hits that you're going to take, I just think is necessarily unrealistic. And so you compare him to a Justin Herbert, right? That's somebody that can, run around and do well, but you're really running. And are you scrambling to throw or are you scrambling to run? You probably could distill it down to that. And to me, I'm a fan of quarterbacks that are athletic and can move, but they're scrambling to throw the ball down over your field for 60, 70 yards. I mean, I think, when you look at the AFC, those are the quarterbacks that are doing well right now. And so the Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allens of the world, those are going to be the guys that you're going to have to beat if you're the Colts, moving forward.
Joe, this just came down. I would like your perspective on it. Final question from us. Really appreciate you joining us again, Joe Reitz, alongside Charlie Clifford, Jimmy Cook, and Eddie Garrison. The turn of events for Carson Wentz. 1 year ago, as you mentioned, Christmas night, the win. It's a win-and-in situation against the Raiders, win-and-in situation against the Jaguars. It doesn't happen. He's moved to Washington. He will now not start the finale in Washington after losing what was a must-win game this past week against the Cleveland team with Deshaun Watson. On your home turf, though, after having a rocky start in Washington, Taylor Heineke comes in, wins here in Indianapolis with the ball to Terry McLaurin, the hometown hero. Ron Rivera just announced Sam Howell's going to start the finale for the Commanders. It appears Carson Wentz, barring some sudden change of events, will be looking for now another new home, a third NFL team, I should say a fourth NFL team in 4 years. Your perspective on how this story has evolved on the top of the NFL world as an MVP candidate, and now Carson Wentz very clearly heading to, I think at best, maybe competing for a starting spot on a team that's very, looking for a quarterback desperately, or more likely a backup quarterback position for the first time in his football life next year. Your thoughts on that situation, Joe?
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that news. But clearly Washington, they had high expectations and didn't perform, and that's the reality of the NFL. And so I'm sure, they got a young guy there, Howell, that they want to take a look at, and, not, similar but different in ways to, the Colts and Sam Ehlinger, and, kind of seeing what he can do in terms of, can they give him a spark, and also looking for him for the future. And so, yeah, it's just interesting. Definitely been a fall from grace for, Carson Wentz, and I didn't really get the chance to know him, when he was Indy, but that obviously is a surprising move for me. But again, that's the reality of the NFL. We always say we know we're on one-day contracts here, players and coaches included, because at the end of the day, it's a bottom-line business, right? And wins and losses matter more than everything else. And that's, you could kind of look at the Colts season and you could, lump that into the same. Just it's one thing to have a disappointing season. It's another one when expectations were really high.
Yeah.
Like everybody else thought this, team was going to be really good, and unfortunately hasn't bared out that way. So that's why it's been tough, especially, as a fan, especially as an alumni of the Horseshoe, but look to brighter days ahead for sure.
Joe, thanks for some clarity on that situation. Awesome conversation here. Can't wait to get you back on here. Have a blast Sunday if that's even possible. But I know there's nothing like the juice of an NFL stadium.
It's 50 degrees right now.
Let's go.
It feels like spring. If you're a Colts fan, get to touchdown town. 10 o'clock a.m. Last one of the season. We'll get it fired up on the pregame show with me.
Let's go.
John, Bill Brooks, and JMV. There we go.
Joe, I know in mid-June we would all be like, I would give anything to watch Colts-Texans just to have a little football. So let's keep that in the back of our minds too. Maybe we can have some fun for a change.
No question. We'll be fired up in touchdown town. Get it rocking.
Joe, you forgot the most important name out of that group, and Jeffrey Gorman.
That might have been a purposely left off. You know how we do that. So he does bring a lot of good juice, but we do like to give him a hard time.
Joe Reitz, we appreciate you. The Mower Shop from Fisher's Hotline, Charlie Clifford, Jimmy Cook, Eddie Garrison. I want to quickly put a final note here on this Carson Wentz situation. Again, he's going to be done in Washington. It will be his fourth team in 4 years next year. Joe mentioned he didn't really have the chance to get to know Carson very well, obviously with the protocols and whatnot. It was just a different season last year. I understand that. I was in the camp of, okay, I did get to know Carson Wentz a little bit through his relationship with sports director Anthony Calhoun over at Wish TV. Look, Carson Wentz is a great human being. He's a great guy.
Yep.
And not many got to see, that side of things. And just on a personal level, to become the punching bag at the quarterback position over the last 3 years, the other side of the coin is you would fire back at me, well, he's been compensated like he's like a top 10 quarterback and he hasn't been a top 25 quarterback. That's fair. But on a personal level, the stuff he's had to go through, he's got 2 young kids, had to move a bunch. I feel bad for the guy. I mean, this is...
Yeah,
this has gone as south as it could have gone, considering he was an MVP candidate. This doesn't happen. MVP candidates, and you're right. It's been because of on-field performance. You can't say he hasn't gotten a shot. I want to say that knowing that 95% of people really didn't get to know him. It's just...
Yeah, it's not his fault.
You wish that would happen to some guy who's just an egomaniac loser, and then you can be like, good. That hasn't been the case with him, and it's just a weird story, man.
It's not his fault the Colts paid him that contract. And if you're a Commanders
that was
fan,
a Philadelphia contract.
It's not fault. It's not his fault. The Philadelphia gave it to him. It's not his fault the Colts traded for it. It's not his fault the Commanders traded for it.
Eddie's going to kill me.
For all parties involved,
not you, the one who's talking.
There's no cap hit. There's no cap hit for the Commanders when they inevitably cut him next year.
Zach Taylor just spoke in Cincinnati. First comments from the Bengals after the tragic scene Monday night. We continue to pray for Damar Hamlin. Olivia Ray in Cincinnati. She was at that press conference. She's going to join us next.
Hi guys, it's Mark. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction? Did you know that a major medical breakthrough is now available and it isn't a pill? Today, Wednesday, January 4th, we're running a one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Pine Grove Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow. It's backed by 60 clinical studies, including from Cambridge. If you're ready to regain the spark in your bedroom, today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. You'll also get a gift that can produce rapid and powerful results in the bedroom in minutes. You're going to love that one, guys. Trust me. And today only, we're offering 6 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is an unprecedented offer worth hundreds of dollars, but call today and qualify totally free. Call 317-552-1111. That's 317-552-1111. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your life back. Call Pine Grove Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today, Wednesday. 317-552-1111.
Hopefully, you'll never have a house or business fire. But if you do, hopefully, you'll never forget this name, Michaelis. They can be there before that lump in your throat goes away. In fact, they're the reason it goes away. Over 35 years of helping people recover from faulty wiring, lightning strikes, or that unattended pot of pasta on the stove. Michaelis crews often roll in before the fire hoses are rolled up. Their proven process of water extraction, smoke removal, and content storage will calm your nerves. Then their talented craftsmen will rebuild your home and restore your spirits. That starts by being your advocate with the insurance company. You'll find Michaelis doesn't just feel for you, they work for you. Water, storms, fire, and foundations. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it. Call 844-FIX-INDY. Make it Michaelis.
LD Smith Plumbing.
A dirty, stinking honest.
The crew at LD Smith Plumbing has deep roots in Indiana. Unfortunately, most of the trees around here have deep roots too. And if it isn't roots in your pipes, it's a water heater ruined by sediment. No matter the plumbing problem, we'll show water who's boss. So if you need a new water heater, call us today and save up to $300 on a tankless water heater or $150 on a storage water heater.
LD Smith Plumbing.
A dirty, stinking honest.
Hey there, it's Jake Query for AAA, and I don't know about you, but wintertime always gets my mind wondering in terms of vacations. Recently, I went to Barcelona and Florence, Italy. Both were absolutely fantastic. I would love to get somewhere warm to escape and see sunshine for the first time in seemingly forever. And no matter where you're thinking about heading, my friends at AAA can help you get the best price on your next vacation at the AAA Vacation Expo. It's Saturday, January 21st at the JW Marriott downtown. Exclusive vacation deals, expert presentations, complimentary travel planning, and more. And the best part, it's all free. You don't even have to be a AAA member to attend. So whether you're looking to travel this year, next year, or beyond, save the date for a AAA Vacation Expo. That's Saturday, January 21st at the JW Marriott downtown. Find more information and pre-register for your chance to win a $500 AAA travel voucher at AAA.com/expo. That's AAA.com/expo.
Hi, it's Steve Mann. Have you heard the commercials for the Mark Patrick Stop Smoking seminars? And they said only $49.99 and it could work for you. So I thought, that's not even a week's worth of smoking. So I went. And guess what? It did work for me. You know, my friends and family are still amazed. I quit smoking. I didn't have cravings, anxiety, or weight gain. Listen, I don't know how it works, but I know it works because I'm living proof, and it's 100% guaranteed. So what do you got to lose? I'll tell you what you got to lose. A very bad habit.
Join Mark Patrick seminars and stop smoking without cravings, irritability, or weight gain. Only $49.99 guaranteed. Don't just cut down, but stop smoking once and for all or your money back. Seminars are 8 p.m. on Thursday, January 19th at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites in Noblesville, or 2 p.m. on Saturday, January 21st at the Holiday Inn Indianapolis Airport. Registration is 30 minutes before the seminar. Sign up at markpatrickseminars.com. That's markpatrickseminars.com.
Dan Dockage for Affinity Whole Health. Affinity is the leader in testosterone and hormone replacement therapy, and I got to tell you, I see why. Since I started a testosterone replacement program with Affinity, my energy, mental focus, drive, everything is up, and the physical benefits are amazing. Check them out at feelgreatindy.com. Guys, you can improve the way you look, the way you feel. You can build muscle and lose fat. Affinity will give you the roadmap. Go to feelgreatindy.com. That's feelgreatindy.com.
A girl in Kenya dreams of becoming a doctor. An elder in Guatemala dreams of becoming part of a community. Reach out and change their world, and it will change your own. Unbound.org.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Your home for indie sports. Now with even more ways to listen.
Listen on air.
Online at 1075thefan.com.
And on our free app.
Stay connected to all things indie sports, including the latest news, show blogs, and catch up on what you've missed with our podcast.
We're never more than just a click away.
Download our app at Google Play and on the App Store. From your home for indie sports.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. At tea time.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
And Jimmy Cook's favorite song on a Wednesday afternoon. That's sweet of Eddie Garrison to tribute you like that, Jimmy Cook.
The problem usually is me, so yes, I'm big fan of a
very
T-Swift
self-aware
jam,
person, which is nice.
Try to be.
Charlie Clifford, Wish TV, Jimmy Cook, Eddie Garrison. We just heard from Joe Reitz. We're trying to push Joe a little bit on the quarterback dilemma here. Not a ton of updates coming from Jeff Saturday's availability. Obviously, Jeff with some very classy words about the Damar Hamlin situation. This was the first time the Colts have spoken on camera since what we all watched unfold on Monday Night Football. Damar Hamlin remains in critical condition in Cincinnati. We learned that Colts safety Rodney Thomas II, a high school teammate of Hamlin's back in Pittsburgh, made the trip to Cincinnati yesterday to be bedside holding hands with his great friend. And although we understand Hamlin is still sedated and in critical condition, certainly power of prayer and the decision that was made by Rodney Thomas to go support his high school friend. It's just very cool, to say the least. Pacers, Sixers tonight, Jimmy. Much lighter note. 5 in a row. Could be 7 of 8. Joel Embiid questionable for the tip-off. So I know some of you thinking about, all right, am I going to try to financially benefit myself riding this Pacer hot streak? Very important note that Joel Embiid is now questionable. Embiid hasn't played in 30 games. Jim, none of these Sixers big three, Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, Joel Embiid, none of them have played 30 games yet, and this team has still found a way to win and comes in tonight 22-14. This is a test, another fun test, another probably outside of Boston, maybe right up there with will be the best atmosphere of the year so far. Philly's just, Tyrese Maxey was out for a month. He came back in 3 games ago, like big standing ovation.
Yep.
That city is on the Sixers bandwagon right now, along with the Eagles, obviously.
Right. They beloved Tyrese Maxey, the beloved Joel Embiid in general. I mean, Philly's as passionate fan base as anybody. I'd rank, obviously, Pacers fans at Gainbridge Fieldhouse when they're rolling up there as well in terms of the atmosphere you're going to experience on a nightly basis. But now, obviously, the Pacers head over to Wells Fargo Center tonight and look to, as you mentioned, get a 5th straight win, but continue to measure themselves with the rest of the Eastern Conference. I mean, over the last stretch of games for the Pacers, fast break points have been through the roof, bench points have been through the roof. They're shooting about 50% from the field, 41% from beyond the arc. 54-7 was the bench point margin there. There is still areas, and Coach Carlisle has stressed this as well, where, especially on the defensive end, they are still growing as a unit and kind of adapting themselves to what you're seeing in the fast break numbers of getting a stop on one end and turning it into successful points on the other, and then compounding that into long stretches of just being frustrating to the opposition. And if you're going to be at that level on the defensive end, I don't want to say sky is the limit, but in terms of what it goes from being able to make a little noise in the playoffs to being a serious threat in terms of the early goings of the Eastern Conference by the time we hit April.
The beauty of it, whatever happens between now and then, it's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be...
And that's the biggest thing. Had you asked you or I a year ago, what do we want next season to be about? I want them to be fun again. I want them to win, but I want it to be an enjoyable experience full of young talent that I can get behind. And I can see the finish line.
That's what you're getting.
On a nightly basis.
You went from in a year to having starters where you had to admit, okay, they're very good NBA players, Domantas Sabonis namely, but I don't really love even watching this brand. I don't even love watching starters, where now you're watching like, hey, I'm not going to sign off when this bench is in the game because TJ McConnell, Ben Mathurin, that backup unit, Jalen Smith now is kind of being rotated in that crew. That crew's fun to watch. That brand of basketball is fun. And as you said, when you're scoring 115 a night, you can give up a little on the defensive end and still find a way to win. The offense has been awesome. We're going to go back to the Damar Hamlin story right now on the Fan 93.5, 107.5, Charlie Clifford, Wish TV, Jimmy Cook, Eddie Garrison, Olivia Ray, former colleague of mine at Wish TV, now at WLWT Television in Cincinnati. Olivia covered the game Monday night and just heard from Zach Taylor, Bengals head coach, for the first time at the podium since this life-changing story for all of us as we continue to try to take some positive notes out of this and await positive updates on Bills safety Damar Hamlin. Olivia, thanks for taking a little time on what's been a very trying 48 hours for you as a professional journalist. You listened to Zach Taylor. What did you learn from the Bengals head coach this afternoon?
Break down the nuts and bolts that I think a lot of football fans as a whole wanted to know right now. Zach Taylor did say that the Bengals are in the building today. In fact, I just spoke with Jamar Chase on my way walking out of Paycor Stadium to my car, asked him how he was doing. He was still pretty somber, said he was doing all right, asked about T. Higgins. They said he's handling it as well as he could, obviously affected by the situation. Zach Taylor said they will play the Ravens on Sunday. There is still no word of when that game will kick off here in Cincinnati because obviously the start time was supposed to be determined by Monday Night Football's outcome, which, again, Zach Taylor also said there has been no decision on if that game will be played at a later date or not against the Bills. So that's nuts and bolts from a football perspective. Zach Taylor was clearly trying to hold back tears. He made a lengthy statement, first of all offering his prayers and thoughts to Damar and his family and the entire Bills organization. He also made note that he said all of the confusion, I think, that we watched unfold where the Bengals started to warm up. Joe Buck reported being in touch with the league officials that they were given a 5-minute warm-up period. Zach Taylor made note that really was never a thought to them. They were trying to process what was happening, something that none of them have ever been through. He said his first conversation with Sean McDermott, he walked over to him on the sideline and he said, "Zach, I need to be at the hospital with Damar. I can't coach this game." And he said it was then that he realized, there was absolutely no way that could go on. That's when they went back to the locker rooms and started to, I think, dissect how to move forward and the best possible way to communicate that with the 70,000 people that were sitting in the stands waiting word.
We learned earlier today, Olivia, again, this is Olivia Ray, WLWT TV in Cincinnati, that Colts safety Rodney Thomas, a high school teammate of Damar Hamlin, traveled to Cincinnati and was able to spend time with his family next to Hamlin's bedside. Who else, in terms of, from what you've gathered, has made the trip to Cincinnati to spend time with clearly a young man who needs every prayer he can get at this moment in time?
Yes, well, I was in touch with and actually standing outside the Bills locker room as all of this was unfolding, and stadium security tried to stop Stephon Diggs from leaving as the rest of the Bills were in the locker room that night. He told them he needed to be with family and friends, and then proceeded to ask people outside the stadium for directions to the hospital, which, if you're familiar with Cincinnati, UC Medical Center is a 2-mile hike fully uphill. I do believe he tried to walk some of it, eventually got an Uber and got to the hospital to see his teammate. I do not believe he left with the rest of the Bills organization because they left directly from Paycor Stadium. I know that Cal Adamitis, the Bengals long snapper, went to high school and college at Pitt. He's been in touch with the family, and Tyler Boyd has as well. I expect to speak with Tyler Boyd later this evening. Zach Taylor made note, too. He said it really hit him hard when he saw TB out on the field amongst the Bills, and he said, "Tyler, do you know him?" And he said, "That's my guy from Pitt." And he said he knew that there was no way they could continue playing, and he knew that I think the gravity of the situation when he saw Tyler's face, because Tyler, as you just asked, I know has been in touch with his family and been visiting as well.
Wow.
Olivia, it's Jimmy. Obviously, this is a very tough situation for everybody, but nationally, and I'm not going to give the airtime to those that did it, but some people very unfairly and crudely suggested that T. Higgins had something to do with this. Obviously, we know that not to be true. It was just a football play. It's an unfortunate accident. Did Zach speak at all on how T. Higgins is doing through all this?
Yes, he said T is handling it as well as he could be, and that's really the only comment he made on it. I don't expect to hear from T today. I do expect to hear from Ted Karras, who is the NFLPA representative, player rep for the Bengals. I've spoken with Ted actually just this morning before we expect to hear with him. He said that the Bengals and the NFLPA have provided counselors and clinicians to anyone that would like to speak with them or needs help. So I think that's the best that they can do is offer the help. But we haven't spoken with T personally. Like I said, I just asked Damar how he's doing, and the look on his face said that they're leaning on each other is what I'm going to read between the lines right now.
It's Olivia Ray out of Cincinnati, WLWT TV. She covered Monday Night Football, and certainly a tip of the cap, Olivia, to you and all the local journalists in Cincinnati. As we were reading and waiting for updates across the country, I thought overwhelmingly the reporting of facts and not speculation, and the, making sure at top of mind that out of respect to Damar Hamlin and his family, I thought things were it was a masterclass by so many people in how they addressed that situation. This was an update 10 minutes ago from the Buffalo Bills. Damar Hamlin remains in the ICU in critical condition. Signs of improvement were noted yesterday and again last night. He's going to remain in intensive care. That is certainly, again, taking small steps forward here in terms of positive updates. I was able to connect briefly with Nyheim Hines, former Colt running back who's now a Buffalo Bill. He had, been very appreciative of many folks from Indianapolis reaching out to him. And, it's always good to have Nyheim Hines on your side, especially in an unprecedented circumstance like this, someone who cares about other people. And he basically left the note with saying, I'm going to hold these guys together. I'm going to do my part. We're going to be okay. Olivia, your sense of the city of Cincinnati, a city that above everyone else in the National Football League has gone from, the doormat to Super Bowl contender essentially overnight, as quick as you can do it in the NFL in this day and age. I know personally my wife lives in Cincinnati. I have seen that town painted in orange, and the energy and the jolt that team has given everyone who lives in and around that city. How would you describe the feeling as you go around from the hospital to, I assume, downtown spots over the last 2 days? Please give us a glimpse into what it's like right now downtown.
Every billboard, especially, every electronic billboard, has been replaced with a sign that says, "Pray for Damar." It has his number 3 plastered everywhere. Every city landmark, including Paycor Stadium, has been lit up blue for the last 48 hours now. This entire city, who is very impartial to their football team, has all been wearing blue. It's really incredible to see them come together, along with all of the Buffalo fans that have actually extended their trip and have attended a prayer vigil for Damar last night. Some of them I know had to make their trip back and have stayed in touch with the Bengals fans that were sitting next to them in the stands. Everyone has been checking on each other. I mean, this was a traumatic event for the 70,000 people that were sitting in the stands as well. So Zach Taylor just praised the city of Cincinnati and how they handled this with class, and how they continue to handle it and support Bills Mafia as well throughout this.
Olivia, you were obviously live tweeting at times Zach Taylor's comments today. One of the last tweets you got out there before you joined us, and again, just a lot of tough questions across the board. But one of them was asked, which isn't the most important thing right now, but is an element that is going to be visited at some point as Week 18 arrives, is does all of this give pause to any of the players about taking the field again?
Yes, and I think that goes without saying that this is going to be in the back of everyone's mind anytime they take the football field. One, all of the players that were on the field on Monday night, but also everyone that tuned in to Monday Night Football, or everyone that just has seen the severity of this injury. He said that he understands that his locker room knows what they signed up for. This is a physical game. It's a dangerous game. And he doesn't believe that anyone in this locker room will maybe, I'm not going to say opt out of games or anything like that, but he said that he's been given no indication of that at this time. Obviously, all they can do right now is provide support to their players. He praised the team chaplain, Vinny Ray. And then, as I said, they are providing counselors and clinicians to speak with to any of the players, because while it may not be said out loud, it will give some of them pause. But he also knows that they understand how physical this game can be at times.
And that certainly will be the case on Sunday as the Ravens travel to Cincinnati. Again, we're waiting official kickoff time, Baltimore, Bengals, and as the NFL nation begins to try to heal here, along hopefully with more positive updates on Damar Hamlin, it will be a tearjerker of a Saturday and a Sunday as games across the NFL take a moment of silence in prayer for Damar Hamlin, and then followed by the national anthem. Olivia Ray at Olivia Ray TV. Please, if you are tied to this story as much as we are here on The Fan, give Olivia a foul. She will provide the updates going forward out of Cincinnati. Liv, great to hear you under these unfortunate circumstances. All the best going forward in Cincinnati. Keep up the great work, all right?
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
It's Olivia Ray, WLWT-TV. Jimmy, it's been nice to piece together yesterday Richard Skinner, another television reporter in Cincinnati, Dan Horde, the voice of the Cincinnati Bengals, and now Olivia Ray, again, as we just learned from Buffalo 10 minutes ago on Twitter. Signs of improvement yesterday and again overnight for Damar Hamlin, but still a long way to go for this young man. For Charlie Clifford, Jimmy Cook, Eddie Garrison, this is 93.5 The Fan. Pacers Sixers tonight. What's the X factor going to be? Plus, the big statement last night in college basketball in this state, and it had nothing to do with IU, Purdue, or Butler. That story after the break.
Need new tires? Skip the long appointments and bad coffee. With Go Mobile Tires Indy, order tires online and have them installed at your home or office. GoMobileIndy.com. We come to you.
A new season, a new QB, a new look. Football is back. And so are Bud Light Blue Fridays. Every week, join JMV beginning at 3 for Cold Bud Lights, Colts football talk, and your chance to win tickets to Colts games.
Join me, JMV, this Friday at Twin Peaks, 82nd and I-69 for your chance at Texans Colts tickets.
JMV, Bud Light, and you. Doing it for the shoe.
I'll see you Friday at Twin Peaks.
Catch another Bud Light Blue Friday broadcast with JMV from 3 to 6 at Twin Peaks. Enter the football toss, and you could be the next fan to win a pair of tickets to see the Colts take on the Texans. From 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
You had a solid retirement dream. Sell your home in a few years, bank the equity, downsize, and travel. But inflation and recession has you wondering if all your hard-earned equity will still be there. What if you could recession-proof your equity right now? You can with TrueHold. TrueHold will buy your home for its best current value before a recession can erode it. You get to bank all the cash now and live in your home for as long as you want. And TrueHold covers all property taxes, insurance, repairs, and maintenance. And since TrueHold pays your home's current value in cash now, it's yours to do whatever you'd like. Don't wait for inflation, recession, and interest rates to erode your home's value. Visit TrueHold.com and discover how much TrueHold will buy your home for today. Based on its best current value, not what's coming. Call 1-855-300-9993 or visit TrueHold.com. The smarter, faster way to cash out on your home's value without having to move. That's TrueHold.com.
People who suffer from arthritis are getting real pain relief with exciting biologic therapies at QC Kinetics.
The success rate is there, and there's no better way to treat yourself when it comes to dealing with pain.
Meet Tyler Vale, co-founder of QC Kinetics, who says they can't cure arthritis, but they can treat the pain.
If you think of the tide coming in and out on the beach and what it does, it erodes the sand, right? Can't stop the tide, but eventually when the sand or the beach gets bad enough, when we backfill that beach with sand so that we get generations of enjoyment with that beach again. And the same thing happens with your knee or your shoulder or your hip or your back. We want to backfill the problems that have happened to this point. I'm not stopping the tide, so I'm not stopping the arthritis, but I want to get generations of enjoyment out of those joints again.
Call QC Kinetics now for your free consultation. Learn more about how restorative biologic therapies can get you real and lasting joint pain relief.
Call QC Kinetics, 317-559-PAIN. That's 317-559-PAIN. 317-559-PAIN.
You've undoubtedly heard of the calm before the storm. Well, Michaelis is the calm after the storm. More than 3 decades of restoring damage from wind, rain, and hail. They've got your back, not to mention your front, side, and roof. It's why home and business owners beat a path to Michaelis' door, because it's always answered around the clock with welcome arms. Your port in the storm. From site security and tarping services to complete restoration work, they can handle anything Mother Nature throws your way. Seasoned and trustworthy pros who are never deterred by a little wind and rain, or a mother load of it for that matter. Water, storms, fire, and foundations. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it. Call 844-FIX-INDY. Make it Michaelis.
Hey, fellas, need an annual health exam for work, or you just want to prioritize your health this year? I recommend Low T Center to get your complete health assessment. They check all your levels, not just testosterone, and typically completely covered by most health insurance. And if you're not insured, it's less than $100 for full labs and an office visit with the provider. Low T Center specializes in men's health, making it quick and easy. That's lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online. Low T Center, reinventing men's health care.
The Pacers head to Philadelphia to take on the 76ers this evening at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
.93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Shout out to Papa Cliff, Brian Clifford back in Chicago with this song. Charlie Clifford here, Jimmy Cook, Eddie Garrison. Jimmy, my dad and I once snuck into a Rolling Stones concert at the United Center.
Yeah.
It's probably 7 or 8 years ago now. Didn't have tickets. It was night 2 of a back-to-back set, Mick and Co. We tried to scalp. You could get in for like $5.50 and sit up back row of the United Center. If you've been to the United Center, that's not a fun place to sit for any event, let alone a concert of that magnitude. Befriended a yellow shirt. If you're all familiar with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, they work elsewhere as well. It's always yellow shirts. Who decided 50 years ago that any live event they will wear yellow?
Stands out.
It deserves its own 30 for 30. We befriend this guy, and he says, hey, hang here. You know, there is a table of like VIP seats. A lot of these people, you know, especially second night, you know, they don't show up to see the Stones, which I think people have gone to prison for less than that. Sure enough, Stones come on. You know, my dad was like, we're looking at the train schedule. Let's just get back home. You know, we tried. Let's go get a beer. Door opens. Fellas, you're in. Let's go. Don't say anything. No pictures. Nothing. 2 seats. We walk in to Mick. Hey, you get off of my cloud. I'm like, Dad, whatever we do the rest of our lives, this is going to be the coolest thing we ever do.
Just self-incriminated yourself.
You know what? I feel like
statute of limitations.
Thank you.
Fine.
Yeah, enough time has passed.
Yep.
And thank you for allowing me to share a Mount Rushmore moment with old Papa Cliff. And we're out of time already. Back on the show, Pat Boylan, Pacers, Sixers tonight in Philly. It's going to be nasty there. It's going to be a dogfight. And guess what? Rick Carlisle's team isn't afraid of anybody. Pat Boylan on the other end of this break. Get on the Pacer train before it's too late. We're back after this.
Hi guys, it's Mark. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction? Did you know that a major medical breakthrough is now available and it isn't a pill? Today, Wednesday, January 4th, we're running a one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Pine Grove Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow. It's backed by 60 clinical studies, including from Cambridge. If you're ready to regain the spark in your bedroom, today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. You'll also get a gift that can produce rapid and powerful results in the bedroom in minutes. You're going to love that one, guys. Trust me. And today only, we're offering 6 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is an unprecedented offer worth hundreds of dollars, but call today and qualify totally free. Call 317-552-1111. That's 317-552-1111. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your life back. Call Pine Grove Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today, Wednesday. 317-552-1111.
Home shows provide homeowners the deepest discounts of the year on remodeling projects. And right now, Window Nation is bringing home show savings right into your home. Schedule a free, no obligation in-home demonstration today and lock in this incredible offer. Get 2 free windows with every 2 you buy with no limit. Plus, pay no interest for 60 months. Imagine the savings in cost and lower energy bills, but you don't just have to imagine how beautiful new Window Nation windows will look on your home. You can see it. Use their free virtual visualizer at windownation.com windowNation.com/home show, upload a picture of your house, and try out hundreds of options online. Get design tips from the experts and learn how Window Nation's trained installation specialists have helped over 150,000 homes with over 96% satisfaction. But remember, these once-a-year home show savings are for a very limited time. Call Window Nation today at 866-90NATION or go to windownation.com/home show. Get 2 windows free with every 2 you buy. Pay no interest for 60 months. That's 5 full years. 866-90NATION or go to windownation.com/home show.
JMV here for Heaven Hill Distillery and our Larceny Bourbon Locks and Luna Azul Tequila Shots. Every Thursday, me and our betting analyst, Brent Halverson, take a deep dive into the weekend that is going to be the NFL. We'll give you our picks, and we call them the Larceny Bourbon Locks and the Luna Azul Tequila Shots. This Thursday, Coach's Tavern downtown. Join us for the free samples and all the fun that we have every single Thursday. Larceny Bourbon Locks and Luna Azul Tequila Shots on the Fan.
Are you ready to propose to the love of your life? Just as you can imagine all the possibilities for your future, at Shane Company, we can help you imagine all the possibilities for the engagement ring. With the largest selection of unique ring settings in every price range and great financing options, it'll be easy to create the perfect ring. We have solitaire styles, diamond halo rings, designs inspired by nature, and more. For the Centerstone, we offer natural diamonds and lab-grown diamonds, as well as natural gemstones, including rubies, sapphires, peach morganite, aquamarine, and amethyst. You can also choose a perfectly preset ring. It's proposal ready. At Shane Company, every Centerstone has been hand-selected by our experts to ensure it meets our high standards for quality and beauty. Unlike other jewelers, our warranty is free for life and even covers your Centerstone. Visit the store or order online. Find the perfect ring for the one you can't let go.
Now you have a friend in the jewelry business. Shane Company and ShaneCo.com.
Helzberg Diamonds presents The Guy Who Was the MVP. Craig was proposing to his girlfriend and needed the perfect ring, so he asked her friends for some advice.
Get yourself to Helzberg.
Yep, Craig went to Helzberg Diamonds. He learned that Helzberg's been in business for over 100 years. That means quality. And with their price match guarantee, he'd get a great deal and find the perfect ring.
Wow, it's perfect. Oh, yeah.
MVP, most valuable proposer. Be like Craig. Find the ring of her dreams at a Helzberg Diamonds near you or at Helzberg.com.
It's JMV. Had to pick up USA Fitness for your New Year's resolutions in 23. Men's, ladies, boys, girls, basketball, state-of-the-art workout equipment near 146 and 37. Noblesville at pickupusafitness.com.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
WIBC HD2 W298BB. WIBC HD3 W228CX Indianapolis. The Colts wrap up the season as they host the Houston Texans. Coverage Sunday morning at 9 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All the small things, true care, truth brings. I'll take one lift, your ride, best trip, always.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Welcome back to the Fan Midday Show. Happy Hump Day, happy Wednesday to you. Jimmy Cook, Charlie Clifford, Eddie Garrison spinning great yarn behind the ones and twos. Joining us now via the Motor Shop and Fishers hotline. Motor Shop and Fishers, motorshop.com for all your residential commercial mowers, as well as snowblowers, power equipment, tools, and so much more at themotorshop.com. He is the wearer of many hats around Gaybridge Fieldhouse, including the radio host and sideline reporter for your Indiana Pacers, Pat Boylan. You can follow him on Twitter at Pat Boylan Pacers. Pat, thanks for making the time as always and jumping right in. You mentioned this on Twitter the other day, but acknowledging 4 straight, 6 of 7 for the Sirs. What's been the biggest key to this stretch of strong play for Indiana?
Gentlemen, I appreciate you having me on first and foremost, and it's undoubtedly been the play of the Pacers down the stretch in these games. So there's numerous ways that you can evaluate close games in terms of 3-point games, 5-point games, but one metric the NBA uses is called the clutch game, which is if a game is at any time within 5 points in the final 5 minutes, it qualifies for a clutch game. And basically, if you look at the Pacers' stretch of their last 12 games, they lost 4 out of 5. There was that Knicks game where the Pacers did not close out a 6-point lead late. We know the comments that were made by Wally Szczerbiak, and really ever since that game, the Pacers have been excellent in these close games. And really, when you look at a lot of it, the Pacers were playing in a ton of close games in that stretch where they lost 4 or 5, and they're playing in a ton of close games in this stretch where they're winning 6 or 7. The difference has been the play in these final few minutes. And a couple things stand out about what they're doing. The Pacers have the 5th best defense in the last 5 minutes of these games here lately, which obviously is a major key. But it's been Tyrese Halliburton. And the guy's averaging 10 points per game in the fourth quarter over this stretch. If you think about that, that's the pace of a player scoring 40 points per game if he were to do that in all 4 quarters. And shooting at great numbers, his typical ball distribution is there. And he's getting to the rim, I think, a lot more, which is significant, too. I think he probably felt like he maybe settled a little bit too much. And it just seemed like something has clicked for him down the stretch in these games lately. And I think it's a fantastic and really interesting storyline to watch here going forward if he can keep this going.
Pat, Rick Carlisle has commented recently, look, why do I lead the league in technical fouls? I'm trying to protect a culture here that is in a growth stage in a situation where a month ago, everyone externally, subconsciously, for better or worse, looked at this as a rebuilding project. That certainly at some point will work against you when the ball's tipped and you're on the road and you're fighting for young players that are fighting to prove themselves. The biggest change over this 7-game run now, behind the scenes, from a confidence standpoint, has it been moving mountains in terms of the confidence from this group? How would you describe what this recent hot stretch has been? 4 in a row, 6 of 7. Bring us into that story.
Yeah, it's interesting because, as I was just saying, the Pacers, it really doesn't feel like they're playing drastically differently until the ends of these games. Like, they were playing in a lot of close games and dropping some recently, and then in this last stretch, playing in a lot of close games and excelling down the stretch. So I really don't think there was a major sort of confidence change, but I did think Tyrese Halliburton had an interesting comment as it relates to that, which is he was asked why he feels like the Pacers have been a lot better closing out games lately. And he said it's because we lost a lot of these games earlier in the year. And he said there's no better teacher than dropping some of these and learning, the way not to do it. And he feels like he himself and the Pacers as a team have really benefited from some of those games where things didn't go well. And, if that really is the case, if that is what's happening here, I think it's a tremendous sign. A team that can learn from its mistakes mid-season, not always the easiest thing to do, especially when you've got a group as young as this one is, right? I mean, Tyrese Halliburton's the leader of this whole thing. He's 22 years old. Many of us were still in college when we were 22 years old, and he's doing these type of things. So I think it's really been, they've done an excellent job at looking back at maybe some areas where they could have improved upon in these late stretch games, but also just in these games in general. And they've made those tweaks mid-season on the fly. And I think it's been really impressive to watch a group that is as young as this one do that.
Pat, when we talked a couple of weeks ago, I don't want to say the jury was still out, but there was still a interesting talking point of where was the season going to tilt as the teeter-totter was kind of unfolding for the Pacers in the early going first third of the season. Are they going to be a team that spans ahead and is in the middle to higher ups of the Eastern Conference, or are they going to teeter back to the lottery? The answer, at least over this stretch, is they are going to be a playoff team and a force to be reckoned with. Has this stretch moved that way fully for you, and are the changes they've made and the tendencies they've adapted over these last couple of games sustainable long term?
Yeah, it's interesting because you're not going to go. I mean, for the Pacers' perspective, they have won 5 straight of these games that qualify as clutch. Even the very best teams, the ones with the biggest superstars.
Pat, how many games did they do that last year? Clutch wins. What was that win total? Do you know that?
The Pacers, I do. The Pacers had 11 clutch wins last year, and they've got 14 already this year. So it's a massive jump. And a lot of this is what Tyrese Halliburton is doing. A lot of this is what the Pacers are improving upon down the stretch. But even the very best teams don't win all of these games, right? So, I mean, there's going to be probably some regression to the mean, which is important to note. And I think if you're a Pacers perspective, maybe a next step is playing in a few less of these games for good reasons, getting yourself a little bit of a bigger cushion and not needing the final couple of minutes. But, I mean, we're talking about, to me, steps that I thought we'd be talking about in 2 to 3 years. So the fact that we're already there, I think, is pretty fascinating. And I think it's still very much up in the air. I mean, we hit the midway point of the season on Sunday. The Knicks are a great lesson of just how quickly things can jump up or jump down.
Good point.
That night they beat the Pacers. The Knicks had won 7 in a row and had moved up to 6, and the Pacers were 3 games behind them. We're just 2 weeks later, and the Pacers are now ahead of the Knicks. The two teams have flip-flopped. The Knicks have kind of done a nosedive, and the Pacers have jumped up. And the reason that I don't have a definitive answer to that question is because a comment that I thought Rick Carlisle said, which has been as telling as anything he's maybe said all year, he feels like in his 38 years he's been involved in the NBA, the league has never had more parity. And just look at the Eastern Conference standings, look at the Western Conference standings, and say, okay, if you pull any team besides maybe the couple at the top of the East and a couple at the bottom of both the East and the West, and you say, let's give that team a 6-game winning streak. Look what it does. I mean, it dramatically changes their positioning. So there is so much parity this year that I think we're all still kind of along for the ride, but this recent trend in general has been terrific, just to kind of see the Pacers turn a couple of pages in a couple of areas. And even when they lost that Knicks game, they were still sitting right around 500, which I think is greatly ahead of schedule where you probably consider this team at the beginning of the year. But I do think they've opened up maybe a few more doors. If you look at the different possibilities of where this season could go, I think you still have a wide range of possibilities.
Totally.
But I think over the last 2 weeks, many of those options, many of those possibilities have opened up on the positive side. And so, obviously things are trending in the right direction now, but still a long way to go.
Fellas, there was one sellout at the field house. There's going to be plenty more the rest of the way. Halliburton admitted it the other night after the win against Toronto. We know fan bases in the NBA, right around Christmas time, you make that internal decision collectively. All right, are we getting invested in this, or am I just going to casually kind of be a bystander? I expect Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and for many folks who haven't been back the past 2 seasons, because let's be honest, there wasn't much of a reason to go back to watch the product on the floor, this place is going to return to its status as one of the toughest places to play in the NBA. They proved that against Los Angeles. It felt that way against the Cavaliers. Pat, the best part for me about this team is, as you continue to look at the box scores every night, the double-figure scores, the mixing and matching of the second unit, the evolution, the ability for, as Rick Carlisle pointed out the other night, TJ McConnell, yeah, he stepped up. He had 15. Let's face it, he's had a change of role in terms of he's used to playing close to 20 minutes a night. They have so many weapons that appear so unselfish. In terms of the teams that you've covered in Indiana, has there been a more unselfish group through 40 games than this team that's currently taking the floor tonight in Philadelphia? Again, an injury update. Joel Embiid officially questionable for tonight. Where would you go on that one, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, it is up there at the very top. It probably is at the very top. We'll see, how this season comes to an end and how some of those things tend to transpire. But, I mean, that is the bottom line of this group. And I think about, the players were very different, and unfortunately the scenario unfolded differently a few years ago. But it is a bit reminiscent of that 2017-2018 season when they were predicted much worse than they actually did. But what's so similar is...
That was the year they took LeBron to 7, correct? That's the team you're alluding to? Cool.
Correct. The team that won 48 games, it took LeBron James to 7, probably gets out of the first round if they're matched up against another opponent. Yes. And
one whistle, Pat. One whistle.
Yes, one whistle, and perhaps that series turns out differently. And so I think there's something that it's why we all love sports, right? There's something untangible that doesn't even show up in the stats. That is, if you get the right group of guys together, then they're capable of doing things
the unthinkable,
maybe far beyond what what they look like on paper, or what their talent level just appears to be. And this group has so many of those intangibles that remind me of that group that we are talking about right now. And so that's to me an even better sign, because this group is so young. That group was much more veteran laden. It had Thaddeus Young and Corey Joseph and Victor Oladipo, who was kind of middle of his career. This group is very, very young, and they're doing a lot of those things. And a lot of these guys are under team control for a good amount of time. So I think that's the dynamic at play that you're seeing right now. The unselfishness, whatever you want to call it. This team is fitting together from a chemistry perspective just incredibly well. And it's showing when you get that right, just how significant that can be. And maybe you can even look at last year's team as an example. A ton of talent and a ton of really good guys. And it never just fully clicked. And a lot of that was due to injury trouble. And now you've got a lot of young guys, but everything is clicking in the right direction. And it's amazing the different type of seasons that you can have when you get that type of thing right. And it's very difficult to do.
Pat Boylan, nice enough to take some time with us via the Mower Shop in Fishers hotline. The Mower Shop in Fishers for all your residential and commercial mowers, snow blowers, power equipment, and so much more. Mower Shop in Fishers and themowershop.com. Pat, we know we might not get the matchup of Embiid and Miles Turner tonight, but
that'd be fine. I think Joel, he should take a day. He should. I'm thinking about Joel Embiid today. Take a night, Joel.
Give a day off. Well, regardless of what he does, Tyrese Halliburton, James Harden, the other team matchup to follow tonight. How palpitating is a matchup like this going to be on both sides?
It'll be really interesting because the last time these two teams played, it was so early in the year.
Yeah.
And for those who don't remember, the Pacers started off 1-4, and I think a lot of the narrative that maybe many people thought going into the season by that point was looking like maybe that was confirmed.
Wembanyama.
I think
translation.
I think you go into this game here just looking at it dramatically differently than you did the one in late October. But Philadelphia has had that same kind of storyline, that monkey on their back for a while. Tons of talent, good regular seasons. Can it work together at the highest level? We'll see if Embiid goes. He's a problem for everybody. He's playing at an MVP level. James Harden playing really well. Also, Tyrese Maxey getting healthier. So it's a really good test here. The Pacers have played very well lately. A lot of these games have been at home. They did go into Boston and they did go into Miami to get a couple of wins. Those games were a couple weeks ago. So can they find the same road toughness that they brought to Boston and Miami here tonight in Philadelphia, which is an equally tough environment? The road games they have had lately, they've really been tested there.
Pat, jokes aside, it would be great to see Embiid out there. This has been a stretch where Rick Carlisle has pointed out, look, you're not just beating the Clippers, Miami, Atlanta, Boston, when someone's taken an off night for load management. This has been toe-to-toe against the Stars in crunch time, and quite frankly, no one can stay in front of Tyrese Halliburton, and that's proved to be a very good thing for Coach Carlisle. Bigger statement, if the Pacers win tonight in Philadelphia or the win this past week in Boston, which would tell you more if you're Coach Carlisle, Pat?
That's an interesting question. I think the Boston one would maybe stand out more, although how it happens will also be significant. But Boston at the very top of the standings, and just that was coming off of losing 4 of 5. And right. I remember when that game happened, the Pacers had lost 4 of 5. They'd fallen under 500 for the first time since the very beginning of the season. You're looking at Boston, you're looking at Miami, and then you're looking at New Orleans, 3 really tough teams coming up, and saying, okay, can you keep things on the rails here? And not only did they keep things on the rails, they won in Boston.
It's the turning point, Pat. That'll be the turning point when we look back at this season. That'll be it, no?
It absolutely is. I think it absolutely will be. If the Pacers have the type of success that they feel like they can have, you will look at the end of that New York Knicks game and you will draw a line in the schedule. And I think to what, Charlie, you were just talking about, look at the month of December. The Pacers finished 8-8. That's not necessarily something that stands out over a month going 500, I know. But if and anybody at home or in the car, when you get a chance, look at the schedule in December. Don't do it while you're driving, but when you get a chance, look at the month of December, and it's not hard to imagine a scenario where 15 of those 16 teams make the playoffs.
Right. This could have been this could have been the month that said, okay, it was fun, and then reality set in. That's what I expected. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and you look at all those opponents. I mean, the Pacers haven't had a game that you went into and you said, all right, judging by the opponent here, you expect to win this game. Maybe they get that coming up in Charlotte in a couple games, but it's been a really tough stretch of schedule. So just to be able to weather this, I think is really significant. The month of December, I thought, might be a really telling month, whether what you just said happens.
And it has been.
are able to weather it,
Yeah.
and it's been telling for a positive way. Yeah.
Pat, as silly as it was, and as simple as the thought of it is, you can't start a fire without a spark. And Wally Szczerbiak did Pacers fans a huge favor, whether subconsciously or otherwise. Look, sometimes when you haven't been talked about for years and you're starting to get some notoriety and some interest outside of your market, the way Pacer fans defended Tyrese Halliburton and the way he has responded and the way he has attacked late in games, it's just been a perfect ending. Do you disagree or agree that sometimes a team that's middling, a team that knows, Miles Turner admitted it this weekend, hey, this organization, we've had to fight for everything. We get looked over year after year. And guess what? We're waking a lot of people up. Do you think there is some value in the fact that the season turned in that Boston game and it came because of, look, you got called out unfairly and now you're reaping the benefits from that? Put that in perspective for me.
Well, I think if you could go back in time, I think it's undoubtedly true for numerous reasons that Wally Szczerbiak would take those comments back for the reasons that are obvious.
Which he
Tyrese
did.
Halliburton will be, and he did. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
He did rescind those comments. I think he wished he didn't make them, of course, in live. Now, it's impossible to know cause and effect there, right? I mean, the Pacers have had really strong stretches of season. I thought Tyrese Halliburton handled it perfectly. He said he saw the comments. He uses everything as motivation. Szczerbiak isn't somebody that he necessarily looked up to. He said, had it been somebody that I looked up to when I was young, maybe that would have hit harder. But, I mean, the comment that he made was, I take motivation from guys with 2 followers that at me on Twitter. So he's looking
it's the
for
Shaq Leonard playbook.
So, yeah, he's looking for any sort of source. And, I do think, maybe he started to ignite something. But what the Pacers have done, I think, on a larger level, probably doesn't involve a former NBA player calling anybody out on Twitter. I think it's Tyrese Halliburton went down and the Pacers went down and they looked at that game and they probably looked at recent games where they struggled down the stretch and said, how can we get better? And Halliburton is such a student of the game. If you just look at his shot selection even in those last couple of games and then looked at them now, he's doing totally different things to have success. He's a good three-point shooter, and he always will be.
Getting to the line.
He's getting to the line.
Yeah.
He's getting into the lane. And that's something he didn't do against New York. And so I think that's been the biggest difference maker is that game against the Knicks, those comments or not, was very disappointing in terms of how the Pacers closed it out. And I think he and the team took a good hard look. Rick Carlisle, the coaching staff, took a good hard look at where they can improve there. And again, like we talked about at the beginning of this conversation, to be able to do that on the fly and fairly dramatically, I think is really impressive.
Pat, it's easy to point to this with different players, but in general, when you're on a contract year across all sports, whenever there's money on the line, you often do see a high level increase in production. It happens again, NFL, NBA, you name it. But Miles Turner's always been a high level player. How much of this is more than just, it's a contract year, now he's finally in a groove? How much of this is really what the Pacers are setting him up to play with really for the first time back in his true 5 slot?
Yeah, I think it's mostly opportunity there. And look, Domantas Sabonis, Miles Turner, 2 very talented centers, and I thought they did about as good of a job as you can playing together, knowing that essentially Sabonis was playing the 4 when the Pacers were on defense because you wanted Turner at the rim. And Turner was playing the 4 on offense because you wanted Sabonis bullying the other guys. Well, he was at the rim on offense. And Turner, basically came out and said, I would like the opportunity to be the guy in the middle. And I give him a ton of credit because he's backed up those words. He's averaging something like 17 and 8, but his efficiency numbers are really, really impressive. I mean, he's almost 50, 40, 80. And when your center can shoot 40% from the 3-point line, the attempts he makes, and then also go and protect the rim, that's the one thing Turner's always had. He's always been a very good rim protector, but could he find a way to be more consistent with these other skill sets? And it's a bit of a chicken and an egg thing. He wants more opportunity, but he didn't have the opportunity. So how do you get that? Well, the trade that happened that landed the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton, was also very beneficial because it unlocked Miles Turner too. And so I tend to think most of this is opportunity, but I do give Miles a lot of credit because He was in a position where he wasn't always playing his natural spot for numerous years, and here's your opportunity. And frankly, there's I think a fair amount of pressure involved in that. Okay, I've been wanting this for a while. Here's my shot. What happens? And he's been, for the most part, excellent, and especially in this December stretch on, he's been really, really good. I mean, he had a 34-point game the other day, and he does things that don't show up in the stat sheet. There was a play late in that Toronto game where I think it was Van Vliet who got by his man, drove to the rim. Turner was there, and because Turner was there, he kicked it out, and I think it was Buddy Hield who got a steal and pretty much put a hammer on the end of that game. And those are types of plays where guys like Fred Van Vliet, they beat their guy the same way night in and night out. They get to the rim the same way, and 90-95% of centers, once they get there, they're able to finish through, or at least give themselves a good opportunity of finishing at the rim versus an opposing center. And when they get to players like Turner or that elite class of rim protector, it's just a different story. And that doesn't show up as a block, and Turner didn't get credited for any of that, but he was the difference maker on a play like that. When you consider him bringing his high-level defense in and being able to increase his offensive efficiency and rebound at a better level, it's never going to be his strength, but I think he's doing it about well enough. He's been the type of player that I think he was trying to show he could be.
It's great insight. Pat Boylan, Pacers Radio Network, pregame tonight, 6:30. Pacers, Sixers going for 5 in a row. Miles Turner, gentlemen, entering tonight, second among all centers in three-point percentage, third in blocks, sixth in points. A career year potentially continuing tonight. Again, Joel Embiid, questionable. Looks like that line's still sitting at Sixers by 6.5. We'll let Jimmy, the expert, handle that. Pat, great to hear from you, and just keep this thing rolling, man, all right?
Hey, appreciate both of you, and we'll look forward to being on here hopefully again sometime soon.
That is Pat Boylan. Charlie Clifford of Wish TV, Jimmy Cook, Eddie Garrison. Quick timeout here on The Fan. We'll have some updates. Week 18 across the NFL. Jeff Saturday spoke earlier for the first time this week. What did we learn about what's ahead for the Colts on Sunday? That story after the break.
Affinity Whole Health is the leader in testosterone and hormone replacement therapy. You'll improve your mental focus, drive, and the physical benefits are amazing. Go to feelgreatindy.com. See why patients rave about Affinity at feelgreatindy.com. That's feelgreatindy.com.
At 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning, we're experienced in everything from boilers to furnaces, ductwork and all. Call 855-1HOUR or visit onehourair.com.
Always on time, or you don't pay time.
Independently owned and operated, licensed in their respective state or county.
Join Mark Patrick Seminars and stop smoking now without cravings, irritability, weight gain, or your money back.
Totally changed my life.
It's amazing. I don't have any cravings. You want to quit, but have found it impossible? This is the thing for you. I have absolutely no craving. It's the darndest thing I have ever seen in my life.
It's not for entertainment. It's for results.
Do it. It works. Period.
You've tried everything else. You need to come and try this.
Only $49.99 guaranteed. No irritability, no cravings, because don't just cut down, but stop smoking once and for all. In addition, use hypnosis to lose all the weight and destroy unwanted cravings. Seminars are Thursday, January 19th at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites in Noblesville. Weight loss seminar 5:30 p.m. Stop smoking seminar 8 p.m. Or Saturday, January 21st at the Holiday Inn Indianapolis Airport. Weight loss seminar 11 a.m. Stop smoking seminar 2 p.m. Sign up at markpatrickseminars.com. That's markpatrickseminars.com.
Hi guys, it's Mark. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction? Did you know that a major medical breakthrough is now available and it isn't a pill? Today, Wednesday, January 4th, we're running a one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Pine Grove Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow. It's backed by 60 clinical studies, including from Cambridge. If you're ready to regain the spark in your bedroom, today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. You'll also get a gift that can produce rapid and powerful results in the bedroom in minutes. You're going to love that one, guys. Trust me. And today only, we're offering 6 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is an unprecedented offer worth hundreds of dollars, but call today and qualify totally free. Call 317-552-1111. That's 317-552-1111. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your life back. Call Pine Grove Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today, Wednesday. 317-552-1111. Need new tires? Skip the long appointments and bad coffee. With Go Mobile Tires Indy, order tires online and have them installed at your home or office. GoMobileIndy.com. We come to you.
They resuscitated his heartbeat.
This from the Buffalo Bills just before 2 a.m. Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest, critical condition.
The health of the young man in Buffalo.
24 years old.
This was 5 minutes into the first quarter of the game.
If you're talking about it,
Suspend play for this evening.
We're talking about it.
What happens with the game itself? It was an important game within the AFC.
your home for Indy sports. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan. And 107.5. The Fan.
We're approaching 2:30 here in Indy. Hope you're having a great opening week of your 2023. If you're as invested in the action on the courts, on the fields that we are, certainly the Damar Hamlin story is still the most important thing in our sports world right now. The update from the Bills earlier this hour, Damar Hamlin showing signs of improvement yesterday and again last night. He remains in intensive care in Cincinnati, and our prayers to his family. Again, 24 years old, second year in the NFL. We learned today Colts safety Rodney Thomas, a high school teammate of Hamlin's in Pittsburgh, made the trip to Cincinnati yesterday to link with Hamlin's family and also spend time with Hamlin, who remains sedated in his hospital room. Just the image of that, extremely powerful. Jeff Saturday with some very classy words. He addressed the team ahead of their return to the practice field this afternoon. There was a report Kenny Moore was out there getting a little work in. Didn't have a helmet or pads on, though. Jimmy, I would not expect Kenny Moore to suddenly return for this inconsequential finale. We're all trying to figure out, are you going to see more of Eddie, Jimmy? Give me one player you want to see more of on Sunday to wrap up this year.
I mean, everybody's been calling for it for the last couple of weeks. I wasn't in that camp, but you're finally going to get another full sample size of Sam Ehlinger. Obviously, It's a limited offense, but I mean, for me, that's the obvious answer, because given the money situation and the unknowns of what happens with Matt Ryan, what happens with Nick Foles, Ehlinger's probably your safest bet for somebody that's on the roster at the quarterback position next year. So I want to give him a fair shake again against Houston. We'll see what he has. We'll get another benchmark for where Sam Ehlinger is as an NFL quarterback.
Sam Ehlinger, 10 quarters of NFL football, 364 passing yards. E.G., who you got?
Jelani Woods. He's had a lot of flashes this year. I wish they had the one big play on the screen. I forget which game that was. I don't know if that was the Chargers game or if that was but yeah, the Chargers game. He had the big screen, gets called back, and then he's never really featured after that in the passing game. He's had a couple big games this year. I think if you get him the ball in space, I think he's really good when he gets the football in his hands. What you got, Jay Cook?
No, I was waiting for. I just wanted to try and navigate that to him. Kenny Moore just placed on IR by the Colts, officially announced 3 minutes ago. Okay. Rashad Berry picked up off the Jaguars practice squad, a defensive end.
You think he's played his last game as a Colt?
It's a fair question. Knowing how frustrated he was with the contract discussions, I hate to say it, but that seems more likely than the other side of that coin, which is going to be a tough loss for the city if that happens, because Kenny Moore is a great person. You mentioned Jelani Woods. At one point, 15 catches for 12 first downs this season. That's been the unexplainable aspect of a tight end room that ranks among the worst in the National Football League.
Are you saying they trade Kenny? Because he's still under contract next year. Is that where you're leaning?
I don't know. Something tells me that a fresh start for both sides at this point. I don't know. Maybe that isn't out of the question. I'm going to go Michael Pittman Jr. I want to see Michael Pittman Jr. run a go route and catch a ball down the field. How many catches does Michael Pittman Jr., Eddie, and Jimmy have for over 30 yards this year? Take a guess.
4.
I'm going to say 2.
0. He does not have a catch over 30 yards. Paris Campbell is 4. Alec Pierce is 3. Yeah. Okay. Other NFL notes. Jalen Hurts, day-to-day shoulder injury. Still unclear the status for potentially the number one seed in the NFC as they try to lock that up. Nathan Peterman starting for for Justin Fields in Chicago. Bears, Vikings. Other storylines you're keeping an eye on week 18 elsewhere. Jimmy, what's your top must-watch game?
Look, I understand that this is getting into the business side versus the human side, but Charles, you and I agree that we have made it clear on this show, like all the other shows nationally, Damar Hamlin is on the forefront of our minds. But if you're talking about Week 18 storylines, you cannot ignore how things play out between Chiefs-Raiders, how things play out between the AFC North title race,
Bengals
1, 2, 3
Ravens.
seed, yes, how it all unfolds,
in Cincinnati,
and what the NFL ultimately decides to do, because we're going to get over the next couple of days, and hopefully the news continues to be positive for Damar Hamlin. But if you think, and you're driving around right now and think the NFL isn't having to run all of this as a business, you're crazy. They are having to have these discussions. That's just the way the world works. That is my biggest watch outside of the games, is what do they ultimately decide to do with Bengals-Bills? Because if the Chiefs lose and the Bills win against is it Bills? It's Bills Ravens, or is it Bills?
Yeah, Bills Ravens.
No, Bengals Ravens.
Bengals Ravens.
Bills Patriots, right?
There you
Bills
go.
Patriots,
Yes.
Bengals Ravens. If the Bills
Correct.
lose to the Patriots
In Buffalo.
then it and Kansas City wins, then the one seed is off the table, and that game matters less in terms of Bengals-Bills. There's a chance, though, if it flips the other way, that game has major ramifications for the 1 and the 2 seed. How the NFL balances both potentially pushing the playoffs back or what they ultimately do with that game, Damar Hamlin's number one priority. But when you ask me about storylines outside of Hamlin, that's at the top of my list. Is how they decide all this.
This will certainly be a piece of Roger Goodell's legacy as commissioner. It's been a well-documented run of many twists and turns, but this will be part of the conversation. Eddie, who wins the AFC South? Jags, Titans, Josh Dobbs starting for Mike Vrabel, 6-game losing streak for Tennessee.
I'm going to go with the Jaguars.
Yes.
They are
Really going out on a limb there.
I know. It's a hard one, right? But I think what Trevor Lawrence has been able to do the last 7 weeks or so has really shown why he was that number one overall pick. And you understand why there was so much hype around him. He's taking care of the football. He's getting his wide receivers the ball in space and letting them go make plays. Evan Ingram has really stepped up for that Jaguars team as of late. Travis Etienne brings a new dimension in the run game that James Robinson surely did not bring in. Over the last, I wouldn't say month or so, Trevor Lawrence has shown the wheels a little bit too, so it adds another dimension. The one thing about that Jags team, though, is can that defense keep it up? Are they going to be able to contain King Henry if he does suit up and play?
This time last year, the Jaguars had 1 win. They now have 8 and are on the cusp of an AFC South title. I have an unpaid bet, Jimmy, as you mentioned off air, in the college basketball world. Last night, Mike Lewis, first-year head coach, Ball State, made it 6 straight wins. The Cardinals are 10-4, chirp, chirp, going to Toledo, beating a Toledo team, one of the 3 that was picked ahead of Ball State in the preseason MAC poll. They have a trio of guards. Boogie Coleman out of Cathedral High School. He started at Ball State, transferred to Missouri for a season, came back this year. He can get you a bucket. That is a man who can get you a bucket in March. Demarius Jacobs, senior out of Chicago, career high 25 last night. Jalen Sellers, real nice lefty on the wing, 15 and 10. They have a big fellow by the name of Peyton Sparks that can dunk on anyone in college basketball. He kind of reminds you of Zion Williamson, but he's a legit center player. Mike Williams, Cardinal Nation. If you're a Ball State alum, watch this team. They're fun. Jimmy, tonight, Butler, DePaul at Hinkle. What are your thoughts about that?
Dogs need a conference win. You look at the start to Big East play, it's been a number of steps back over this losing streak. And while you and I talked about it yesterday, this is not a referendum at all on Thad Matta in his first year at Butler. They've dealt with injuries. They're continuing to try to piece together this lineup and what the rotation is going to look like now that they're basically 100% healthy. But you need a win. You need a conference win.
Right. And they did beat
cannot let
Georgetown Sunday night.
Right,
that kind of got lost in the NFL Sunday.
So you're getting on that right path, because we talked with Mark Minner and Nick Gardner last week about how important it was to rebound against Georgetown to get your footing right heading into the meat and potatoes of conference play, because just like any conference, but in particular the Big East, if Butler wants to end their tournament drought that's going on a couple years now, obviously they likely would have been in had COVID not happened. That happened with a number of teams around the state. But if they want to end that drought, they can't afford to get so far behind the eight ball in conference play. Georgetown win was a good step in the right direction. Hoping for the same now against DePaul tonight.
Butler 9-0 this year when scoring at least 7 points, 0-6 when they're held under the 70 mark. Eddie, tomorrow the Hoosiers' Big Ten play really heats up. Going to Iowa City, we learned Tamar Bates will be a starter alongside Jalen Hood-Schifino. Trey Galloway will come off the bench. If you're Mike Woodson, what's your biggest concern heading into 2023, Eddie?
I would say, the guard position in general. Jalen Hood-Schifino and Tamar Bates have both been able to show they can play in big games, but it's just consistency out of those two guys, because if you're looking to make a run into March, and certainly in the Big Ten tournament, you need guard play. That's one of the two things that you always look at when you look at good teams when it comes to March Madness, is they have two guards that are really good. You don't have to worry about the Hoosiers when it comes to defense, because a Mike Woodson team will always defend each and every night. It's the guys that surround Trace Jackson-Davis that you have to really get going. Miller Kopp has been great in shooting the three ball, but
much better.
You need Jalen Hood-Schifino to live up to the hype that he was when he was recruited by Mike Woodson and staff, to become a nice ball-handling point guard that can get other guys involved and be able to score when the offense needs him to score. And then let's see who else can come off the bench. So, Trey Galloway's going to come off the bench like you just alluded to, but you need somebody off the bench that can score. And who's it going to be? Is it going to be Malik Renew? Can he get back to that early season success? But that's kind of like what you have to watch out for if you're Mike Woodson. And plus, Iowa's always tough, but if you're looking to play Iowa, now would be the time.
0-3 in the Big Ten.
0-3. They just Patrick McCaffrey will not play tomorrow night. They announced that yesterday. He will sit out for some period of time. There's no reason, or there's no length, because he is dealing with anxiety. He's going to go work on that, which is really good for him to have the courage to step away from playing with his dad and to go focus on his mental health. But Chris Murray, I don't know the status of Chris Murray going into tomorrow night's game. So if I was a little banged up, I think this is the best time, if you're an Indiana fan, that you can play the Hawkeyes, especially in Iowa, considering no more Jordan Bohannon finally.
You think Jordan Bohannon, Jimmy, will ever be able to step foot, even to fill up his car potentially with gas passing through the Circle City? Would that end up okay for Jordan Bohannon? No. That shot last year. I'm sorry. That guy, all the best to him.
But he's done that twice against Indiana.
I try not to think about Jordan Bohannon. I'll be honest with you. Try to let him seep into the past and not think about it. There's no happy memories there.
Charlie Clifford, Jimmy Cook, Eddie Garrison. We're going around the horn. Ohio State, Chris Holtman's team ranked 24th, coming. Awaiting the Purdue Boilermakers. Jimmy, level of concern 1 to 10 after Purdue's loss to Rutgers. Going into now the heat of the Big Ten season, what number in terms of your concern for Matt Painter after his first loss of the year?
Just to clarify, 10 would be most concerned in that scenario. Probably about a 3. Like, we talked about this yesterday. This was never a team, because it's just so hard to do in college basketball, it was going to go undefeated. And the Big Ten is a beast. It always is. And I know it might not be I perceive it that way, but nationally it might not be viewed as the top conference in college basketball this year, but it is every single night. If you take a step back mentally for even a moment, you're going to get pounced. Mm-hmm. That happened early on in that game, but because of the way that Matt Painter has this group ready to go, because Zach Edey was able to stabilize himself through foul trouble, they almost stole that game. So I'm not necessarily concerned long-term for Purdue, though again, and at some point, it's no longer a narrative. It's a legitimate issue with Purdue moving forward, would be when you continue to have a team that has great guard play and great high-level dynamic playmaking forwards that give you fits. That's what has gotten Purdue the last couple years in the tournament. That's how Rutgers has been able to stun them twice now, both at Mackey and in general up in New Jersey. So if if you're looking for a concern level, I'd say minor, because Matt Painter has navigated this stuff before, but it's something that creeps into the back of your mind of fix it, right? Fix it and improve.
Yes. Matt Painter had a classic Painter response after the loss to Rutgers, commenting on the Scarlet Knights' toughness, saying, if we were heading to war, we would stop in New Jersey and pick those guys up on the way to back us up. I thought
that's so true.
A very fun and appropriate way of describing the fellas from New Jersey and the fight they bring to the court each night. Eddie, is there any chance, if Zach Edey remains healthy, he does not end up as the Big Ten Player of the Year in the conference?
If he keeps playing at the way he has been, I don't see there's a reason why, because if you look at the rest of the Big Ten, the only guy that I can think of that could compete with him is Trace Jackson-Davis.
And that gap is what heading into this weekend? Ooh. Is it a country mile? Is he states away?
I would say, I don't know. That's a good question, because, I mean, Zach Edey has been by and far one of the most dominant players in all of college basketball, so I wouldn't say it's like a landslide, but there's always the chance that, especially if Trace is able to find the success that he had in that Big Ten tournament, again, during the Big Ten conference season, I think you could see him make a run for Big Ten Player of the Year, but I think Zach Edey is just I don't know what the proper analogy is. 3 car lengths, maybe, if we're talking IndyCar.
If you're coming down the home stretch on lap 200, that thing is over.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, but to Eddie's point, it is going to take, with Xavier Johnson out of the fold and relying so heavily on Tamar Bates and Jalen Hood-Schifino in terms of your guard play, this was known going in. This team, to an extent, is going to go as far as the efficiency level and the high-level play of Trace Jackson-Davis. So the idea to say it's over, how does Purdue respond after Rutgers? Again, I'm saying I think they're going to do just fine, but there's going to be windows of opportunity to win Big Ten Player of the Year, because he is going to have to be putting such numbers up on a nightly basis that he's going to be in that conversation.
We will return to close out the afternoon show, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan, and to the last 10 minutes goes the victor, and that team in this city right now is the Indiana Pacers. An injury update against the Sixers tonight in Philadelphia, and the X factor for Rick Carlisle as this win streak looks to move to 5. We're back after this.
Guys, if you've noticed a lack of energy, motivation, and drive, it could be low testosterone, so schedule your complete health assessment at Low T Center today. They now offer the convenience of monitored self-inject at-home testosterone treatments. That's $155 a month cash pay, or is covered by most health insurance. If you don't live near a Low T Center, or you just need the convenience of the at-home treatment, Low T Center makes it easy. To get started on treatment, it's only the first 2 visits in person. That's lowtcenter.com to schedule your appointment today. lowtcenter.com. That's Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
At Eskenazi Health, our patients are treated with compassion and skill. That's why Eskenazi Health is looking for professionals who share our mission and are dedicated to serving the community. As an employee of Indiana's top hospital for social responsibility and community health investment, you'll enjoy excellent benefits, competitive pay, and unwavering leadership support. Learn more about Eskenazi Health careers online at eskenazihealth.edu/careers.
My partners had told me I should get my knee replaced. I was in my 40s, and I decided that I wouldn't do that.
That's orthopedic surgeon Dr. John Herzog, who found regenerative medicine years ago and became a believer.
It changed my life around. It improved me to a point where I was able to jog again.
That's when Dr. Herzog switched his focus from surgery to helping his patients with natural biologics.
I've treated at least 5,000 patients. I believe your body has everything it needs to heal itself.
Today, you'll find Dr. Herzog at QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in this exciting field of medicine that can give lasting pain relief with no downtime, no drugs, and no surgery.
I have patients coming up to me that I did 10 years ago saying, Doc, my elbow's still working great. I'm playing tennis 3 days a week.
Call QC Kinetics now to explore alternative ways to deal with your pain. It's a free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 317-559-PAIN. That's 317-559-PAIN. 317-559-PAIN.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper?
And you can get it online. Just go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the biggest brands at 90% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but 90% cheaper. It's the same medication you get from your doctor, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/joy. That's 4hims.com/joy for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/JOY.
Hi guys, it's Mark. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction? Did you know that a major medical breakthrough is now available and it isn't a pill? Today, Wednesday, January 4th, we're running a one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Pine Grove Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow. It's backed by 60 clinical studies, including from Cambridge. If you're ready to regain the spark in your bedroom, today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. You'll also get a gift that can produce rapid and powerful results in the bedroom in minutes. You're going to love that one, guys. Trust me. And today only, we're offering 6 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is an unprecedented offer worth hundreds of dollars, but call today and qualify totally free. Call 317-552-1111. That's 317-552-1111. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your life back. Call Pine Grove Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today, Wednesday. 317-552-1111.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, your grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
The Pacers head to Philadelphia to take on the 76ers this evening at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
This might be the coolest thing we've seen all week. There's a report out that Jim Irsay has now become the top donor to Damar Hamlin's toy drive, a donation very fittingly of $25,000, $25,003 as Hamlin, as we've come to know his nickname 3, that dates back to high school. And, it's important to note that these acts of generosity will, when I think of Jim Irsay's legacy, long term here, bringing a Lombardi here. I know many of you have your fingers crossed that there will be more than one sitting on the entryway of the Colts complex. The many times unspoken generosity of Jim Irsay and his philanthropic endeavors and commitment. This is just the latest chapter of that. It's cool stuff, Jimmy Cook.
Yeah, we mentioned this a couple weeks ago in regards to some people being frustrated with Jim Irsay or frustrated with the direction of the franchise. At his core, Jim Irsay cares about people, and he cares about not just the city of Indianapolis, but clearly with just his philanthropic moves in general, but particularly this toy drive donation and joining countless others around the NFL and around the country and the world that have made donations to it. It's a kind gesture on his part. A number of other owners have followed suit with the extra $3 in there in honor of Hamlin, which is really special. And yeah, I mean, it's say what you will in other areas. Jim Irsay wants what's best for this team, which is why. And he's not afraid, again, not in this instance, not talking about the donation, but in terms of the long-term health of the franchise, he'll spend when he feels this team is a player or two away, or even if they're not, he will spend to make this team competitive. Not a lot of other owners of professional sports franchises are willing to do that.
Charlie Clifford of Wish TV, Jimmy Cook, Eddie Garrison, we're with you for the next 7 minutes. John is in next. NFL executive Jeff Miller shared earlier this hour discussions as to what to do with the Bills and Bengals game will continue, and a decision is expected in the coming days, which I think is interesting. Will it arrive ahead of the Week 18 slate of games, the kickoff, with the uncertainty of the seeding in the AFC, or would they potentially provide a contingency plan with the decision, hey, we aren't going to play this game unless you absolutely have to. That would be my assumption at this point. If it affects the integrity and the seeding of the AFC postseason, it sounds like we will be provided a contingency plan of when that game would be played here in the coming days. Against that's just within the last hour.
One thing of note on that front, if one telling part of the statement, it was towards the back end, so I'm reading tea leaves to some extent. Pundits have mentioned that the COVID protocols resulted in winning percentage being a factor with how we navigated the COVID-19 pandemic. In that statement, the league mentioned that they still have that precedent of protocols in place, leading me to believe there is a chance that this game gets listed as a no contest and they go off of winning percentage for the seeding in the respective conferences, or mainly the AFC in this case.
Jamie, that's a spot-on forecast. The Indiana Pacers head to Philadelphia tonight. Tip-off here in terms of the pregame show will be at 6:30. Can't wait to have you rejoin us then for a team that now has the second longest winning streak in the Eastern Conference, 6-1 over its past 7 games. Joel Embiid questionable to play tonight. Jimmy, what needs to go right in order for the Pacers to make this 5 in a row?
How about answer that question?
Yeah.
I give you a wager.
I am ready.
The Jay Cook Plays of the Day.
This is me, all right? I'm not an athlete. This is my way. This is how I win.
We're going all across the board for the Pacers this evening. Going to go Tyrese Halliburton over 18.5 total points. Also going to take over 15.5 total points for Benedict Mathurin tonight. And while we're at it, assuming he plays, over 14.5 for Miles Turner. But we're not done there. The winning streak continues. Give me the Pacers on the money line, plus 215 odds.
The train is moving, Fargo. Eddie Garrison.
To quote BK, Brendan King, who's often on this program, these airwaves as well, Pacers are a wagon. I want to be on it there, Charlie.
Eddie Garrison, if you are given the chance to lock in your seat on the Pacers bandwagon for the remainder of the year with no chance of ridicule, or I should say with the chance of ridicule if things go south, are you locking in your seat tonight, or do you need to see more before that happens?
I still am in the camp of need to see more, simply because they have shown stretches as of late that they can beat good teams. I'd like to see them beat good teams on the road. They have beaten Boston, like we talked about earlier, in Golden State and Miami. 3 solid teams. I'd like to see it more consistently. We talked about it earlier in the week as well. The rebounding for me needs to step up a little bit. But Jimmy, I do have a couple plays in this game as well.
Please.
I will take Aaron Nesmith under 11.5 points, and I will take DeAnthony Melton over 10.5.
We don't conflict anywhere there.
Yeah.
We're good. But all that can happen. Paige can still win money lines.
You know, the last time I disagreed with you on Benedict Mathurin, he had like 18.
That was the Eggs Benny over easy game.
That was the Cleveland game where he got like 8 free throws in the first half.
I feel like the heads of state of Switzerland in here. We're just all nodding in agreement and shaking hands for the last 5 minutes of this show.
Do you want to throw a knife into the mix and discard this camaraderie?
No. You mentioned the Miles Turner. Miles Turner's playing, right?
I was going off Eddie's conspiracy theory,
got you.
to be clear. There's no rumors. I should have clarified that. There's no rumors that Miles Turner isn't playing, but Eddie, if you want to reiterate that to the folks, Eddie had a thought in regards to
just the
way Embiid
theory
and Turner balance.
As it just feels like, every year it's like cat and mouse, and Embiid will sit, Miles will play, Embiid plays, Miles sits, so it's just all over the place.
On tonight's edition of Conspiracies with Edward Garrison, Joel Embiid questionable tonight. 15-5, Philadelphia at home. They're 10-2 over the past 12. For me, if this is a win tonight for Rick Carlisle's team, this is the biggest statement win of the season. I think as you continue onward, as Rick Carlisle mentioned following the win over Toronto, the more you win, the more human nature tends to set in. When you know you're overachieving, you're playing well, you need to hold the line, and we need to continue to find ways to tinker to get this overachieving group to be even better. To me, knowing what Philadelphia and Doc Rivers know about Tyrese Halliburton and this team of late, going in there and winning would trump the win in Boston when, as Pat Boylan mentioned earlier this hour, a struggling team walked into Boston, caught them sleeping early, built a 20-point lead, and hung on at the end. That'd be win number one of the season for me if it happens.
I know we got 30 seconds, so I'll let you close this. Want to give a shout out to my wife, Haley Cook. I'm going to be off the next couple of days or so. She's running the Disney Marathon down in Orlando this weekend, so best luck to my wife, Haley.
That's where we should end it. Safe travels down there, Jimmy. What's the forecast look like?
My relatives weren't able to leave yet, so weather is not kind, but for the race it should be. It's a matter of getting down there.
It's been a blast up here. Jimmy Cook, Eddie Garrison, Charlie Clifford. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully recapping a Pacers win. John's in next. Have your